right, boys, it is Monday, July the 8th, 2019. I've been gone for a little over 2 weeks. But I'm back. I've got my co-host and my special guest. We are going to go over week 13 this week. We're going to do this on Monday, and then later this week I'll be doing week 14 that just ended. But I want to kick this thing off right. I want to not skip over a week after some coaxing from Ben. Speaking of, let me introduce my co-host, Benjamin Aloysius Nisman. How are you, sir?
Good to be back, Joe. Good, doing great, man. These were unbelievable, very close matchups, a pivotal week. So many critical things happened that might develop going forward and make everything just completely change here on out. Good to be back, and let's pick it up.
Absolutely. And one of those key things that happened in week 13 was a big win and finally getting off of his extremely long losing streak, which was nearing record length. And with us right now, Francis Bartholomew Bucco. How are you, Frankie?
I'm well, sir. How are you?
I'm doing quite well.
Nice to hear from you.
Yeah, good to be back, man. Good to hear from you.
Absolutely. Fantastic to have the two of you with me. Let's dive right into this matchup, Frank. You had Bobby Russo, Angels in the Trout field this week. He came in as the number 7 seed. You in the basement, but you take down a really big, important win this week, 10-9, getting you off the schneid, putting Bobby in an interesting spot where he's still on the outside looking in, and he actually lost a spot this past week. So the combination of those two losses actually shifts him down in the standings. Close categories for that matchup. You won by 1 win. Bobby won by 2 saves, and you guys tied in triples and relief appearances. On your bench for that week, 8 for 26. That's a .308 batting average. 2 runs, 2 doubles, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, 2 walks, and 9 strikeouts. The only thing I found interesting, Saturday and Sunday you left home runs on the bench. It was Willy Adames and Jorge Soler with Gannett and whatever the hell a Luis Arias is going over for respectively. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You won homers and you won RBIs fairly comfortably. Tell me about the week. Tell me what you, especially let's hit on these 2 trades that went through that Monday, which was Ryan McMahon for Jake Odorizzi and Austin Riley for Marcus Stroman. Tell me about your thought process of those 2 trades.
Well, okay. So the Odorizzi trade, we've been having a good year. I mean, obviously he's an all-star. Due to his good first half. I figured, hey, I needed starting pitching. My starting pitching was suffering after the loss of Montas. And, Jason was a good trade partner. We talked about it. And, we came to the agreement that, it was going to be Ryan McMahon. I mean, originally it could have been, Willy Adames. We talked about that, but basically I needed starting pitching, and Odorizzi was a guy who Jason was willing to give up, and he was looking for some bolsters in field. So I had a piece, he had a piece, we both had a need, and we made it happen. The Stroman trade was a little more interesting, because the Beavers and I, handed the week away now, we talked about that person, Marcus Stroman, originally a little while back, made some poor decisions on my part as to who to include in that trade. It did get vetoed, unfortunately, when that happened. But, I went back to the drawing board and said, hey, this is what, are you interested in this guy? And again, I needed starting pitching. And, Stroman was a guy, again, another all-star who's a 4th or 5th starter on the guy's team. So, it made sense for me from that standpoint to make both of those moves. And, this week, in week 13, it didn't really work out in my favor. But I mean, the second half is upon us, and hopefully there's a turnaround coming, and it works out for both sides. I mean,
sure.
Behind it.
The thing I found interesting was you traded for both of these guys, and then ended up dropping Steven Matz. Now, in the long run, that does end up paying off for you because they moved Matz to the bullpen after his recent struggles. When I look at your rotation here, it's actually forming out pretty nicely with the guys you've traded for between Tehran and Stroman and Odorizzi. Picking up John Gray, picking up Merrill Kelly, and actually keeping him this time. And
I want to throw in the Musgrove pickup as well.
Yes.
He's really put together a rotation between the trade of guys that were basically jumping in and out of his roster day to day, and he could shed them. And then he's just kind of put together a nice little rotation. I thought Frank did an unbelievable job with this. And we still have another couple weeks until the deadline, but he put together a rotation. Musgrove was a guy that I was considering using my waiver spot, and I let it go, and I realized that he struggled past me. But at the time, this worked. And when we talk about Frank and what he did on his bench, he still won most of these offensive categories. Mm-hmm. And he didn't leave a triple on the bench. That was tied at 0, so he didn't worry about that. And even having the 2 walks, he won by 2 walks. Right. So everything he did actually turned out to work out for him in his favor. So, Frank, I give you a lot of credit on this one. I think you did a lot of good work. The pitching was disappointing, not because of anything you did, because they were disappointing.
Yeah, it was absolutely performance-based. It was not a managerial thing that caused the ugly line in your pitching line. You're not going to win very many weeks with a 6 ERA, a 1.79 WHIP, especially against a team like Bobby, who's got a really strong 1-2 in Garrett Cole and Noah Syndergaard, who both pitched well that particular week, as Garrett Cole does most weeks. I'm not seeing any other big moves. Oh, you did drop Mitch Haniger. Tell me about dropping Mitch Haniger.
Well, I mean, Mitch Haniger was, that was a back and forth for me because, he's a guy that, again, hasn't been hitting very well this year. I already have a crowded outfield, and I mean, really, he was just a guy that I could have let go of. I mean, much like you'll see when you do next week when I drop Scooter Gennett, who hit 111 this past week. But it really was a thing for me where I have a center fielder in Alex Gordon who is doing significantly better than him, and who knows how long it's going to take the guy to come back from a ruptured testicle.
Yep.
I mean, let's be honest. So it was a move that I decided to make based on what I needed at the time. I mean, I'm not just going to fill. Yeah. I'm not just going to fill up my bench spots with DL guys that. Listen, you're not doing anything. You're not doing nothing for me. So what am I going to sit there and hang on to you for? I mean, yeah, I did it with Scooter Gennett, and with the hopes that he would come back, and he's due to come back soon. But Mitch Haniger, I mean, yeah, 14, 15 bombs, but his on base percentage was horrendous.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't nearly he's not nearly having the campaign that he had in the prior year. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it sucks that I had to let him go, but I had to, I had needs. I had needs on my team, and I needed space to make those moves, the Luis Arias of the world. And, I mean, that's really the thought process behind it.
What the hell even is a Luis Arias? I've never heard of this clown.
Luis Arias is a prospect from the Twins organization who, when called up, has been hitting over 400 and gets on base a lot, and he's a utility guy that can play multiple positions.
I see that.
Even though he's slotted as a second baseman, he's played left field, right field, third base. He's like William Astudillo, but
not a meme?
Well, but not William, yeah, but not a meme, right.
But not a meme.
So...
Got it.
Yeah,
so Frank, Yeah, I was going to say, Frank, as we get into your highlighted players for the week and the highlighted players for Bobby's week, tell me about a guy that you traded for that you were kind of on the fence with JD Martinez, and tell me about how the fact that going into Saturday of this matchup with Bobby, you're only batting about 237. In 2 days, you picked it up to 263, whatever it is that you batted.
265 was his final batting average.
265, yeah. And then the following week, you batted well over 300. This is next week. So for the last 10 days, your offense is kind of on a tear. It's almost kind of a shame you go into the break getting this hot. But tell me what you attribute to everything that's going on lately with your offense.
Well, I mean, it was guys that I kind of realized, like, I was hanging on to Willie Adames, who, I mean, real quick with him, I was hanging on to him. Yeah, he hit 318, not last week, but the week prior. He had a 7-game hitting streak, but, I was holding on to guys that I didn't necessarily need to hold on to. I was almost giving up on a Jonathan Slope or what have you. So, I said to myself, I was like, I got to do something here. I got to make, I knew I had a need to strengthen my on-base percentage and to strengthen my batting average. So that's why I went out and got those guys like Luis Arias and Miguel Rojas. I mean, Miguel Rojas has been hot as anything right now. And he's in a Marlins lineup that's not, I mean, they're not terrible, but, they're not great. I mean, just the stuff like that, like I was assessing it more and looking at it and saying, okay, this guy's doing well. Let's plug him in. It's only gonna help. I mean, unless it really hurts, and then you wind up dropping him. But in the beginning of that week, in the beginning of the week that we're talking about, I actually was hitting 179. And I raised the batting average throughout the week to 260. So, I mean, even 230 to 260 is a good jump. But 179 to 260, I'll take that all day.
The one thing I noticed is that, holy shit, Frank, your team is hitting a ton of doubles. Like, you hit almost 20 doubles in the matchup against me the week that just ended. You hit 16 doubles against Bobby. Like, it's coming. The offense is strong. It's can you put, and obviously we just talked about it, can you put together a pitching staff that'll be able to win you some categories and get you out of the basement.
Right.
We'll see how the second half shakes out for you. Let me jump over to Bobby's team real quick here. On his bench, he went 6 for 39. That's a 154 batting average. 5 runs, 3 homers, 8 RBIs, 4 walks, 8 strikeouts, and an error. The one thing I noticed with him was that he still really likes to play Brian Dozier more than he should. He likes to play Lorenzo Cain maybe more than he should this year. Because at the end of the day, Lorenzo Cain's only hitting 246, and yeah, he steals bases, but it's coming at the expense of a guy like Brett Gardner, who's no matter how you look at it, is having a better year than Lorenzo Cain. They're both hitting 246, almost, they're identical there. Gardner has 10 more homers, he's got 11 more RBIs, and they have almost identical stolen base numbers. I don't see why.
And Gardner's, sorry.
No, I don't see why Cain is playing over him as much as he is. And specifically Saturday, Gardner hits a 3-run homer on the bench, and Cain's 0 for 3 in center field. I feel like, and I've said this before, I feel like Bobby has a really crowded outfield because he's got so many center fielders, and he just dropped Adam Jones for nothing. If Bobby's not going to make a move, he's kind of in a weird spot, and I feel like this is where he's going to end up, is just outside the playoff race. Benny, your thoughts on that?
Well, go ahead, Benny, your thoughts.
Yeah.
I'll give mine.
Mm-hmm.
The shedding of Adam Jones, it could hurt him in the end.
Yeah.
So I don't know who the right guy is to have every day. And I'm not saying that Adam Jones is going to light the world on fire the rest of the way. I know that he's going to get at bats, and I know he's going to hit some home runs, and he might end up on another team doing that. So is it something that he ends up regretting? He does have a crowded outfield, but it's not that he shouldn't have all these guys on his team. Maybe Myers does pick it up. It's at this point, I think Bobby is exactly where he, and I know that he's scared. No, I shouldn't say he's scared. I should say that he's concerned about what's been going on these last couple of weeks. He's wondering if he should make a deal. He's never made a deal in this league. But what I'll say is that for me, if I was him, I would have signed up for this, guys. Like, this is a good spot to be in with 8 matchups to go. For me, all he's got to do is win big another week. He won big the week prior to this, so he just needs to get it going again. He's got plenty of time to do this. Anybody can win 6 out of the last 8 matchups.
Sure.
So if it's him, he's in the playoffs. So at any point, any of these guys, I understand his concern, but if I was him, I know I'm in a better position, so it's easy for me to say it, guys.
Sure.
But I'll say that I would have signed up for this spot for him. He's over, what is he, 15 games over 500? He's in a good spot.
Frank, what are you thinking?
Oh, I'd be happy to be in his position. To be honest, but it's not. But and here's the thing, and you know, the first of all, you look at the Gardner thing you were talking about, Joe, and you say to yourself, Brett Gardner is, you know, the thought process, and, you know, because I've had this discussion with Bob, is that Gardner is going to lose playing time when Stanton came back. Well, that's obviously not going to happen now because he went back on the DL.
Don't fucking remind
Stanton,
me.
Yeah. Just a little
Don't
bit of
fucking remind me. I'll get to that.
So, no, but he's going to get playing time. The guy's a friggin' Yankee lifer. You know, Aaron Boone would be stupid to sit in this position. I mean, yeah,
He will, though.
He will eventually.
He will.
Say a lot, you know.
Yeah.
So getting the time off, getting the time on, getting the time off. It's hard to know the day after a day off is the day he pops a home run or two. I mean, it's just hard with Gardner. It's a hard guy to own in general. He's not a fantasy player I have ever owned in his entire career. I've never had Brett Gardner on my team. And it's not because I don't think he can get the job done. I'm just saying that at one point, like, he could steal the base that you need, or you could go over 4 that day. And it's just a hard guy to play. And for the most part with Bobby, he has left Gardner on the bench, and he has done a lot of damage on his bench. And I know it's frustrating. Believe me, I've been there before with with my own players. But for me, at least, I don't know. I don't know what I would do with Gardner. That's a guy that I would trade if he has any value. If there's any way that he can move him, for me, that's what I would do.
But see, you left him on the bench after the first game of the London series, which I don't remember what he did in the first game of the London series.
I remember
that game was 17. What was it? 17-13.
Yeah, he homered in that game, by the way.
At an amazing clip, both teams were, and he hit decently. So my thought process, if I was Bobby, I would play him in the second game of the London series, seeing how the first game went. But you know, Bobby and I are different managers. And, you know, and that's okay. You know, but I would have played him. You know, and it's not that Bob's not trying to make a deal. Trust me, he's trying. I can speak from experience.
So can I.
Yeah, exactly. But, like, you know...
I know. It's hard to pull a trigger on the deal.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It is. I mean, you know, you're sitting there, you know, well, it's not hard for me. I mean, no, I've done it a bunch of times.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. I mean, you know, but it's hard to pull a trigger on a deal when you're looking for certain things and, you know, and this and that. So, I mean, that's all I'll say about the Gardner thing is that, you know, I would have played him. I would have played him that day that he popped the 3-run home. Would it have helped him in the matchup this week? No. I mean, you know, the big mistake that he made was not starting Martin Perez in the beginning of the week.
Yeah, he did pick up Martin. He picked him up and didn't play him that week.
Like, didn't play him.
He added him on the day of the start. I don't know if that's a timing issue or what.
An accidental thing. I remember hearing from him on that.
He said that.
You know, something along the lines of like, "Wow, that was a rookie mistake." You know, just for someone, you know, he's a sophomore player, but I know that something like that was an incidental thing that happened, not because of, you know, he was concerned. He was worried about starting them. So
that would have won him the week.
Yeah.
I mean, because, you know, and the major thing that didn't win him the week was the no decision from Thor and from Max Luke.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, he had won back from Garrett Cole, 13 innings, three walks, 13 strikeouts, a 1.3 ERA, and a 1.15 WHIP. I mean, Garrett Cole did all he could to try to win Bobby of the Week, but it just wasn't enough.
Yeah, and those are the only 3 wins he got. Had he, and even throwing Martin Perez, that was a no decision, so that wouldn't have really changed that particular stat. Everything else he basically won, outright.
Yeah.
The one thing I did notice, I think it was this week, Bobby missed like 2 or 3 relief appearances from Ryan Brazier, and you guys tied that stat.
Yep.
And that was
another thing I noticed.
Let's jump to key players, and we'll see how things shake out going forward. For Frank, you won this week. We'll jump to your key players first. It's going to be JD Martinez, obviously, 429 average, a 500 on base percentage for you. 4 runs, 3 doubles, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, 3 walks, and 4 strikeouts. You touched on him earlier, Miguel Rojas. This guy helped me win a championship not too long ago. It was one of the last 2 I've won. He hit 444 this week, 474 on base, 4 runs, 4 doubles, 2 RBIs, a steal, a walk, and a strikeout. Rojas is a pesky little dude, and he's been leading off for the Marlins lineup. You said they haven't been bad. They've actually, they're not producing as in the win column, but Rojas is really hitting really well lately. In the last 10 games or 12 games, he's got multi-hit games in half of them. Chris Bryant was your last. Well, I'll let you talk about your offense as soon as I'm finished here. Chris Bryant hit 320, a 452 on base percentage, 5 runs, 3 doubles, a homer, 2 RBIs, 5 walks, and 6 strikeouts. I find it interesting that the 2 best hitters who won you the only week you've won in the last 2.5 months are the same guys you're talking about trading. Talk to me about your offense and why on earth you would want to just uproot the core of your lineup.
Well, I mean, it's not necessarily a complete uproot the core of my lineup, but the idea behind it was as I was trying to manage, because the 2 weeks prior to this matchup, JD Martinez led my team in strikeouts. Mm-hmm. And I can't look at how many weeks I've won strikeouts. I know Benny, you can look at that. But strikeouts is hurting my batting average and hurting my on-base percentage. So in an effort to try to change that and also bolster my pitching staff is the reason why I'm essentially offering those guys. So, when people are looking at it and they're saying, oh, well, he's offering this guy and this guy, why? That's why. And I mean, granted, it worked out in this matchup against Bobby where JD only struck out 4 times and Bryant struck out 6 times.
Dozier's the one that burns you, really.
Dozier's the one that burned me this week, yeah. I mean, big time, but, and he burned me again this week against Joe, which you'll get into at a later date.
Yeah, Friday, I think, or Thursday.
But, yeah, whatever you do it. But the point is that if I can get a valuable return for those guys, then, the option is out there. But I'm also not gonna look at, I'm gonna throw the guys out there and see what comes to me. I'm not gonna pull the trigger on just any trade, but I'm also not gonna, be closed-minded to it and say, hey, well, these guys are necessarily untouchable. But I mean, you gotta come really good. You can't be offering me your 3rd and 4th outfielders or, guys who are sitting on your bench consistently. I'm not going to, I've learned over the past whatever amount of weeks, 13, 14 weeks, that, these guys are valuable. Both of them are former MVPs.
I have a question.
Sure.
All right. I know that Bobby at one point, if he still is, I don't know, a 3rd baseman. was the fact that Dozier not hitting. I mean, was this guy ever on the table? Was this ever a guy that he was considering? Someone
He was. The answer I get for him from Bobby, and I'm going to be straight up and honest with you guys, the answer I get from Bobby about Hunter Dozier is he sucks. Plain and simple.
Wow.
He's not worth it. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. He was offered as a throw-in. I was asked to throw him into one of the deals that Bobby and I were trying to work out. But then at that point, if you think about it, now you want a guy like JD Martinez, you want a guy like Chris Bryant, and then you want a guy like Hunter Dozier. Okay, so now you've depleted three of my would have been my top offensive guys.
Yeah, he gutted your offense at that point.
Right, and why am I going to gut my offense when, the return is, and again, I'm not going to get into semantics because there's no point, but, the return is, not of value.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to gut my offense for, Lorenzo Cain, or I'm not going to gut my offense for Adam Jones,
mm-hmm.
or, Yanni Chirinos. It's not going to happen.
Right.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm just not going to gut my offense for that.
If I'm being totally honest, I don't see a reason to gut your offense at all. It's what's carrying you now, and pitching week to week is so variable. Somebody who has a great staff one week can look like shit the next. Hitters are gonna hit. Hitters are gonna hit unless they've got some sort of issue. And right now, your hitters are hitting. I would stick with what you've got and ride this out and see where you're at.
Well, that's and that's why I haven't really talked about. Well, let's I had the discussions with Bobby. They didn't amount to anything, and we've kind of just we've it's been we're at a stalemate.
Right.
And
and for me, Frank, I look at the offense that you throw out there day after day. It just looks fun. It just looks like a fun group of guys. Like whatever 9 you put in, have a potential to have a really big day that day and beat your opponent. So I think you got nothing to worry about it going forward. Especially, what your team did this past week offensively. You did walk into a kind of a juggernaut. Joe, your offense is amazing, and maybe you didn't have the batting average that Frank had, but it's not like you didn't bat well either. Still over 300.
No,
right.
It was 306.
Yeah. So, for me, it was just kind of bad luck for you. I think you would have dominated some other teams this past week, but for me, it all comes down to what happens after the break. And so many guys will just start slumping out of the break. They'll go 1 for 13 or 1 for 14 right out of the gate, and you're trying to make a run for something or try to spoil whatever you're trying to do, and just 1 or 2 guys that just go so darn cold right out of the gate, and your week is done.
Absolutely.
Right, and that's how it works. And Benny, you'd asked me earlier. I just want to touch on one thing real quick.
Mm-hmm.
You asked me earlier, like some of the things that I did this week to try to like move things around. I was talking about Miguel Rojas. I wound up dropping Robinson Chirinos. I held on to him for way too long, I think, and it wound up hurting me in the weeks prior to the matchup with Bobby. But I wound up dropping him, and I wound up picking up Christian Vasquez again, who, in that week alone, he didn't do anything. In that week alone, he hit 263. There's a 250 on base, 1 homer, 6 RBIs, 3 runs scored, only 5 strikeouts. As compared to the 11 that Chirinos got me the week, the 11 strikeouts Chirinos gave me the week before.
Mm-hmm.
So, I just kind of looked at that stuff and said to myself, all right, I need to strike out at a less clip so I can bolster my batting average, bolster my on-base percentage, and look at guys to plug in here and there that are going to help. And, you'll see a direct result of that when we go over the matchup I was in with Joe.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's really what it was. Like, and now, and even going into the following week, Christian Vasquez hit 385, 393 on base. The dude's been hot. He's been solid all year. And, I made a bad determination earlier on and kept Chirinos and dropped Vasquez. So now I'm kind of, moving. I moved that around, and it's helped. It really has helped. So I mean, those are just a couple of things that I looked at and said to myself, hey, I gotta do something here, and hopefully the pitching staff does itself around.
Yeah, I mean, your pitching staff was pretty bad this week, but like we said earlier, you've put together a decent little staff here. Your key pitchers this week, John Gray was really good for you. 12 and 2/3, 2 wins, 14 strikeouts, a 1.42 ERA, and a 1.18 WHIP. Joe Musgrove had a good start for you. 6 innings, a win, 5 strikeouts, and a shutout ball. That start was against Houston, it looks like, which is really impressive. It's not only a revenge game for the Garrett Cole trade, but he really needed to put together a couple of good starts because he had a few really bad outings between the start against the Dodgers, the start against the Brewers, and most recently the start in Atlanta. Since that start in Atlanta where he got blown up and I dropped him, he's put together a few good starts, and hopefully he does well for you. Finally, Will Harris gets you the
he got blown up in Atlanta. He got tossed for hitting Donaldson.
No. The follow-up game after that, he got blown up for
Okay.
Yeah, he only went 2/3 of an inning that game, but he came back like 2 days later, or 3 days later, and pitched against them and got rocked.
Okay.
Yeah. Finally, Will Harris.
Happens when you hit against the best team in the National League.
Oh, shut your mouth. Will Harris gave you 3 relief appearances, clean innings, 2 1/3, and a win. The thing I highlight there is the win because you won wins by 1, and getting it out of a reliever who gave you 3 relief appearances to tie that stat. Guy's pretty good for you, and he's part of the reason you ended up trading him off for Austin Meadows. Bobby's
traded him off for Austin Meadows.
Yeah, you did. Bobby's key players this week. It's going to be Ketel Marte once again. The guy just keeps on hitting. 280 average, 308 on base percentage, 4 runs, 2 doubles, an RBI, a walk, and 4 strikeouts. He had Nick Markakis hit 300, 4 runs scored, and a double, a homer, 5 RBIs, 3 strikeouts, and an error. And finally, Robinson Chirinos, who Bobby picked up, hit 375 for him with a 583 on base percentage. A double, 4 walks, and 2 strikeouts. What the hell is that noise? All right, Frank.
That was me packing something.
Gotcha. All right, buddy. We're gonna let you run. It's great talking to you. We'll talk to you later this week. All right?
Absolutely, sir. Looking forward to it.
All right.
Bye, Benny.
Hey, take care, Frank.
Thanks, guys.
All right, well, you
All right, guys. Good to have Frank on again. If you guys want to be on the show, just let me know. Give me your phone number, and we can 3-way call you in here with me and Ben. I think.
Yeah, that goes for me too, guys. You have my number. Anytime, just let me know because we should get this going. At some point, we should all be on the show.
I agree. But between now and season's end, I'd like to get everybody else on the show in one form or another. Correct me if I'm wrong, Benny. We do have somebody else lined up for week 14.
No, at this point we did, but just some traveling issus made it difficult. So not this week, but in this week we will have someone. Not for this session.
Okay. No. Yeah. All right. So we are going to be recording week 14 on Thursday. We usually start this about 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning, West Coast time. So it's like 1 or 2 o'clock on the East Coast. If you guys are free, let me know. I'll be happy to have you on, and we can talk about your matchup first, last, whenever I need to schedule it in. Let's jump to the number 1 team for the last few weeks, and
Before
it's
we do that, Joe.
Sure.
I just want to throw out one more thing because I want to get some closure on this last matchup because Frank did break a big streak here, and it should be acknowledged that what happens going forward with Bobby's team it's something that he'll look back on. Guys that you talked about, like Kinsler, with 3 great appearances, he ties that category. I mean, there's so many opportunities to win relief appearances for both of these guys.
Sure.
That category not being a one stat for Bobby ends up being a win in total for Frank, and this was a big win for him. You don't even know, is it a bigger win for Frank or a bigger loss for Bobby? So I just wanted to throw that in there. This was a very amazing battle between 2 great managers, 2 young managers in the bigs, but are acting like veterans really, really early in their careers.
Absolutely. I completely agree. As far as whether it's a bigger win for Frank or a bigger loss for Bobby, I'm going to say it's a bigger win for Frank, because when you're, I think we've all been there one time or another where you're looking at a team and you believe in the guys that you've assembled and you're just not getting the results that you think you should be. And week after week after week after week, you're staring down the barrel of loss after loss after loss. It's demoralizing. So to see Frank get a win over a team in playoff contention this week, I could hear it in him. It definitely raised his morale quite a bit. So we'll see going forward how he does. It certainly didn't help in his matchup against me, but we'll see what happens in the second half.
And now that moved Frank into last, and Bobby moved into 7th, I believe.
He was in 7th when this week started as well, so he did not. It didn't change his ranking.
Yeah, it's 7th. It's 7th. Yeah.
He made a lateral move. All right, let's jump over to James McCloskey and Jason Ashby. Witness protection versus Stanton room only. And another very close matchup. There were a lot of close matchups this week, and I almost feel bad that I didn't have as much time because of my vacation to put in as much work as I should have toward these close matchups.
This was a back and forth match to remember. This was amazing.
Okay.
Everything we're talking about, what happened on Saturday and Sunday, this is an incredible chess match coming up.
Fantastic. I look forward to your breakdown of it because, to be honest, Saturday and Sunday were two of the busiest days on my vacation, so I wasn't able to really take a look at it. Jason does get the win here, 10-9 over James. Close categories this week. Jason wins by 2 home runs and a save. James wins by an error, a loss, and a home run given up by a pitcher. And they tied in runs and RBIs, which I found really interesting. For Jason this week on his bench, 10 for 46, that's a .217 batting average, 6 runs, 2 doubles, 2 RBIs, a steal, a walk, and 14 strikeouts. He did make the trade that we talked about with Frank, sending away Jake Odorizzi for Ryan McMahon. He picked up Brendan McKay, who's like the top prospect for Tampa Bay. The two-way player like Shohei Ohtani. I think somebody even said he's the poor man's Shohei Ohtani who actually plays defense. I think he plays first base. He picked up Justin Smoke as well and a few relievers toward the end of the week to try to get relief appearances, which he did win. Tell me what you saw that he did specifically that got him this 10-9 win.
There was a decent amount that happened. I mean, firstly, I didn't think the Rendon deal initially was a good deal. I thought giving up Corey Seager, to me, I was concerned that move. I was wrong. You know, I think the Rendon deal has worked out and panned out for him. Mm-hmm. For me, a guy like Nick Senzel is a guy that he started on Sunday, could have very easily been taken out of the lineup. He ended up playing him there. He ended up playing. He played Upton in his utility spot instead. He could have went with a guy like Ryan McCann, a guy that he traded for. He ends up putting him on his bench, so he plays Senzel. He gets the RBIs needed to take that category on Sunday. I don't know. Nick Senzel, he is a must-play for some guys, but when he's batting at the top of the lineup, you're not necessarily looking for RBIs.
No.
You know? So they were pretty close going in with the runs. He ends up getting 1 run as well. That ties that category. So that was something wild that I saw. As far as on the other side, of what James did.
Yeah.
He had on the bench
Yeah.
Matt Chapman.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that in 1 second. I do want to point out Jason picked up Justin Smoke, and on Sunday played him, and Smoke hit 2 homers for him. So it's a huge swing there, especially when we get to what we're going to get to momentarily. Let us jump over to James's stats on the bench here. He went 11 for 45, which is a 244 batting average, right about where you want to be. But the counting stats is really what's important here. 9 runs, a double, 2 triples, 4 homers, 14 RBIs, a steal, 8 walks, and 8 strikeouts.
They were all critical. Every run and every RBI was so critical.
Absolutely. You know, on Wednesday, he benched Kevin Kiermaier, who hit a 2-run homer, and Michael Conforto went 0 for 5 and left.
Oh.
On Thursday, some reason benched Cody Bellinger, who went 2 for 4 with a homer and an RBI. And
that's 2 home runs on the bench right there.
And Yandy Diaz goes 0 for 7 in his utility spot. But what you were about to hit on was Matt Chapman. Matt Chapman on Saturday and Sunday. Saturday, 1 for 3 with a 2-run homer on the bench, and CJ Cron is 0 for 5 at first base. He needed to move Yandy to first base and get Chapman in. And then the following day, even after Chapman hit a home run, he left Chapman on the bench, who went 3 for 5 with a double, a triple, a homer, and 6 RBIs on the bench. Everyone in the lineup hit, but play that guy. You know, Kevin Kiermaier tripled with 2 RBIs and a steal on the bench as well. He left so much to be desired on Sunday the 30th, especially on the bench. There was a ton there. Tell me your thoughts, Benny.
Again, there was so many runs left on the bench here between Matt Chapman and Kevin Kiermaier. That's 4 right there. If one switch is made, look, it's so hard to make every move correctly.
Sure.
I'm trying to figure out how he could have done it, but it's whether you might have been sacrificing a run or an RBI from somebody else. The one big one for me was that Senzel putting up 2 RBIs for Jason to tie that category, and 1-1 to tie that category as well. And that to me, I thought going in that was a guy. I don't recall who he was facing that day against the Cubs, but I remembered not thinking that he was going to go 2 for 4, and that was a big difference to me.
Absolutely. I just look at this lineup that James put out there on Sunday. You know, Yandy Diaz has been really good for him all season. And now that CJ Cron's on the DL, I think this actually opens up playing time for Matt Chapman, which is interesting because Chapman was a part of that big trade that I made with him. And to see him riding the bench as much as he is, it's a guy who's hitting 265. He's got 21 homers. How can this guy not find playing time on 2 of the best teams in the league? You know, he had a hard time getting into the lineup for me. He's having a hard time getting into the lineup for James. You know, we talked earlier about Bobby making a trade, and he needs a third baseman. Maybe this is the guy, and I'm telling you right now, he was in the trade talks I had with Bobby. I don't know why Bobby doesn't, jump on this opportunity to free up some space on another roster and get a really good asset.
Yeah, and I have a feeling between all those guys, I have a feeling knowing Bobby, he'd be more interested in a Chapman than a Yandy Diaz or a Jose Ramirez.
Sure, absolutely. Key players this week. Let's jump to that. For Jason, it's Lourdes Gurriel. Gurriel had himself an absolute monster of a week. 440 batting average, 462 on base, 7 runs, a double, 5 homers, 8 RBIs, a walk, and 8 strikeouts. Eric Sogard we hit on, I think it was last week or the week before. He is no longer rostered by Jason, I don't think. No. But he did have a great week for him. 385, 471 on base, 3 runs, a homer, 2 RBIs, a steal, 3 walks, and 4 strikeouts. And finally, Anthony Rendon, who again, I say it almost every week. This might be the most underrated guy in Major League Baseball. 320 average, 333 on base percentage, 6 runs, a double, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, and 3 strikeouts. Pitching wise for Jason, Max Scherzer is going to Max Scherzer. 16 innings over 2 starts, 2 wins, 1 solo homer over those 16 innings, and he was absolute gold. 24 strikeouts, 24K, a 1.13 ERA, and an 0.56 WHIP. Jose Quintana was fantastic for him as well. 6 innings, a win, 4 strikeouts, no earned, and a 1 WHIP. And finally, Kirby Yates, who is really anchoring the bullpen that Jason has put together here. 2 1/3, a save, 2 relief appearances, clean, absolutely pristine innings, and 2 strikeouts. Anything you want to add there, or should I jump to James's key players?
I just wanted to mention one more thing on the bench before we get there. And that's just the one thing that I think that Jason, although he's happy that he sat Austin Meadows on Saturday with an 0 for 4. That could have very easily been Whit Merrifield's spot, and then Whit Merrifield doesn't score the run needed to tie. But I'm sure Jason is kind of kicking himself that Victor Robles got that RBI because he could have plugged him in for Justin Upton. That was an 0 for 4. Nick Senzel was an 0 for 4.
Yep.
Benintendi was an 0 for 3. So there was opportunities to get that RBI in there. He decided on that day to sit Victor Robles. On the great managing that they've done, that was a small miss there.
Sure. For James's key players, Aaron Judge has come back and been fantastic for him. Looks like he hit 571 for the week with a 684 on base percentage, 4 runs, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, 5 walks, and 3 strikeouts. Think about Aaron Judge. If he can keep the strikeouts down, he's going to put up a great week. You know, it's always going to be how much this guy whiffs is inversely proportionate to how good his week is. And this week, he walked more than he struck out, and it was a great week for James. Joey Gallo has also given him a good week that week. 368 batting average, 478 on base percentage, 4 runs, 2 doubles, 3 homers, 5 RBIs, 4 walks, and 7 strikeouts. And finally, we've hit on him a couple of times. Yandy Diaz gave him another good week. 263 batting average, no walks, actually a lower on base percentage, which tells me there was a sacrifice fly in there somewhere. 250 on base, 4 runs, 4 doubles, 1 RBI, and 2 strikeouts. Pitching-wise, Chris Paddock. Chris Paddock has come back and been pretty good for him. 6 innings, 8 strikeouts, a win, 1 home run. It was a solo shot and the only earned run. That's a 1.50 ERA and an 0.50 WHIP. Taylor Rogers gave him 2 clean innings and a save with 2 strikeouts. And Shane Green did the same, 2 relief appearances, a save, and 3 strikeouts. And considering, you know, he didn't win saves or relief appearances, but he also pitched to a 5.15 ERA, so it was kind of hard to find, you know, another couple of pitchers that really did well for him.
Terrific job by the bullpens in general, I think. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's again, we'll get into it more, I'm sure, as the weeks go on. But right now, the concern for James is that now he is kind of starting to run into some hot teams, mm-hmm. and things that happen in the weekend, like Matt Chapman sitting all weekend. It's things that might come back to bite you later. Exactly.
James is still, you know, a fairly newer manager in this league. Look, take nothing away from the guy. He has managed
a great team.
He's managed fantastically. He's put together a great squad, and it showed. He was in first place for almost 2 months. So yeah, he's going to hit a little bit of a skid here, and he has. But let's see how he rallies from this. He's got Mike Sherman this week. He's got Uncle Barry next week. He's got Andy Solar Greco, and then Chris Levy as his next 4 matchups, and finishes it off with Mike Haber, James Santangelo, Josh Haber, and Frank. That's a very, very makeable schedule. Yeah, that's a really good schedule. You know, he's got a couple of strong teams in there. in Chris Levy and Mike Haber. But for the most part, these are all guys who are trying to fight their way out of the bottom and fight their way into the playoffs versus guys who are at the top. So it should be interesting.
His bullpen is better than a decent amount of these guys. It's a shame on this for him to make the trades that he made with you and not win saves this particular matchup is tough. Mm-hmm. But I think going forward in the schedule that you mentioned, you should be able to at least tie or win saves, that category at least. Because at this point, if you're not winning those categories and you're not going to make it, I realize part of the deal is what it's going to happen in the playoffs. It's helpful to bolster the bullpen. But right now, he needs to be winning that category, Joe.
Absolutely. I completely agree. He made an absolutely enormous trade to bolster his bullpen, and to not win it hurts. It absolutely hurts. We'll see how things go going forward. Let's jump to your matchup with Jimmy Dunlap. It was a double-up win again for you, 14-7, as you took down the number 5 seed. Close categories this week. Looks like you won by 2 doubles, a loss, 2 home runs given up by a pitcher, and 2 walks. Jimmy won by a complete game, and you guys tied in triples. On your bench, it was a bad week for you on the bench, buddy. 22 for 78, which is a 282 batting average, 12 runs, 3 doubles, 7 homers, 15 RBIs, a steal.
9 walks, right?
10 walks.
10 walks.
10 walks. 26 strikeouts, and 2 errors. I noticed this particular matchup. You were going with a ridiculously deep bench, much in the vein that Ari does. And this showed. There was a lot of moving parts this particular week. Whether it was Dom Smith, whether it was Carlos Gonzalez, David Bodie, Russell Martin, Dustin Garno, Yohan Camargo. There were so many moving parts in and out of your lineup, not to mention the guys you already had going. Guys like Hayward and Kipnis and Votto and Miguel Cabrera. Tell me what happened this week and how you left so much on your bench.
It's funny because when you have a short schedule on those Mondays and Thursdays, you tend to pick up guys that you don't expect that are going to be on your team, and they do something for your team, and you can expect maybe they'll do it again. I just watched Dominic Smith continue to hit home runs on my bench day after day because I just couldn't find room for him. I found that I had to bench Domingo Santana because unfortunately Kipnis and Hayward had to get into my lineup. So things like this happened, and as a result, having a deep bench really killed me. On Saturday, I left 3 home runs on the bench, 5 RBIs, only the 1 walk from Miguel Franco, but with 10 walks on the bench, there was always an opportunity for me to win walks or at least tie it. That was a stat that I was undefeated in going into this week, so there goes that. I lost by 3 walks. So I tip my cap. I feel like I had enough walks to beat a lot of teams, but in this case, not.
Oh yeah. So 21 walks should win you that category.
Say, though, Joe, as deep as the bench got, it got deeper on Sunday for a specific reason. First, I'll say something. I might end up having to give away a strategy on this show, so I'll just do it. I had moves to go. I had a decent amount. I think I had about 3 or 4 moves left. And I was trying to play with the idea of holding on to on-base percentage, holding on to average. These things were still kind of close, and trying to avoid losing strikeouts, where I still knew that walks I had contention for. So I was going to play with that slow lineup on Sunday. Okay, so that was my move. And I knew that I had a night guy going, like Dominic Smith. That was my guy, right? Unfortunately, his game was the late game, so I didn't know exactly how to play that, and I just figured that he should sit on my bench, and I'm going to leave my left field spot open on Sunday. And if he's playing, then I'll put him in based on where I am on average, on on-base percentage, and on strikeouts. If I feel like it's safe to play him to go for the walks, then I'll play him. Otherwise, I have that spot open, and it's one less guy that I'm playing that I can try to win strikeouts. So that was the first thing that happened, all right? So I try to play...
Just to hit on that very quickly, it looks like the guy that may have been the late game was Jason Hayward, not Dom Smith, because you dropped him for Colin Moran earlier in the day.
Exactly. No, it was Dom Smith. The late game was Atlanta and the Mets.
Okay.
That was the night game. So I decided once he wasn't playing, then I had no use for him. The Mets weren't even playing on Monday, so I had no point of having Dom Smith anymore.
Right.
So I dropped him, and I picked up Camargo. But what happened was that all of a sudden, Christian Walker on the Diamondbacks decided to single-handedly lose Jimmy the category of strikeouts.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, average was starting to fall into the right place. On-base percentage was going to fall into the right place. And I had no reason to play Camargo anymore. So I dropped him.
Mm-hmm.
What I did was I used my moves on this particular day for the next day, for the next week. I made it so that I spent my last moves on moves that I would need on Monday.
Exactly.
So I knew that Monday, there were only about 4 or 5 games that Monday.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew I was going to have a short lineup. So I made sure that I filled my lineup on Monday from Sunday. So that's where Colin Moran came in. That's where Addison Russell came in. They were never going to be played. They were just going to be used for tomorrow. And Addison Russell ended up having a bad day. We'll talk later on in the week about what Colin Moran did for me this past week to win me the week. But
yeah,
as far as a lot of these lineup moves were for something that never ended up happening, but it was on a just in case or the next day.
Gotcha. And I've done that too, where you're sitting on Sunday and you're going, well, I'm not going to use this guy again, and well, I need somebody tomorrow. And away you go. Yeah, no, totally smart to use your last roster moves on things that'll benefit you in the week upcoming if most of the categories is decided.
Right, because if you have those moves and you're able to drop the guys in time and have the empty roster spots, you drop them before their game starts on Sunday,
mm-hmm.
and you should go at least after these guys, because you can still pick them up after their games have started on Sunday. They'll just be on your bench automatically.
Yeah.
But at least you don't have to waste the roster moves to add. You only have 13 this year. Mm-hmm. So you got to do whatever you can to not use them because you might need them later on in that week. So you use them the week before.
Yep. Absolutely. Let's jump to Jimmy's bench. He went 6 for 34, which is a 176 batting average, 4 runs, 3 homers, 4 RBIs, 4 walks, and 8 strikeouts. The only thing I saw that was interesting was Max Kepler hit 2 homers on his bench on Saturday, and Christian Walker went 0 for 4 in the utility spot. You hit on Walker earlier, where he single-handedly lost Jimmy's strikeouts on Sunday, going 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. To me, he also really kind of screwed him over on Saturday, too, going 0 for 4 with another strikeout. So between the 2 days, 1 for 8 with 4 strikeouts, it's a pretty bad weekend. The kid's got some power, but man, he's really streaky. And
but I will say this, and we'll get into next week. I've had a funny relationship with Christian Walker because of what happened, what we're talking about this particular Sunday,
mm-hmm.
and also yesterday. Because on this past Sunday, he won my opponent RBIs as much as he lost Jimmy strikeouts.
Right.
So it's just a funny thing how a guy can do one thing on one team, the next week he's on another fantasy team, and he ends up beating you. That's fantasy.
Exactly. Roster moves for Jimmy. Nothing that stands out to me unless I'm missing something. He picked up the batting side of Brendan McKay, which, from my understanding, is the weaker half. This isn't like Shohei Ohtani, where the guy can hit 25 homers and be an ace pitcher. My understanding is that he's probably slots in as a 2 or 3 starter and a James Loney type of first baseman.
Right.
So. And then ended up dropping him the next day. So I guess he realized he got the bad half of that deal. Nothing standing out there. Anything that you saw?
I'm just going to throw in some small things.
Sure.
That Number one, I had to bench every pitcher on Sunday. I had nothing to gain. I had a 4 save lead. I had a 6 relief appearance lead. I wasn't going to catch him in ERA. I wasn't going to catch him in WHIP. I wasn't going to catch him in innings either. And I had a 1-loss lead. I had 2 losses. He had 3 losses. I had 6 home runs given up. He had 8 home runs given up. He had 8 walks given up, and I had 6 walks given up. So leading by 2 in those, leading by 1 in the losses, I had nothing to gain. I just dumped the whole pitching staff. I told them to take a break. Also in the London series on Sunday, I saw the beginning of that game, knowing that walks was really close, and my roommate saw me punch the pillow about 17 times when Gary Sanchez, from an 0-2 count, drew a walk. He was able to catch it, and then I was annoyed because I haven't lost that category, and I just saw it finally slipping away. So after that early walk, then I'm down by 2 walks. I need something to happen, and then it's just unbelievable that I had 4 walks. I believe it's 4 on Sunday, and then the other thing that was crazy is that 3 different players that I all considered could have been in there. They're all outfielders. Domingo at left, Jason Hayward in center, and Avisail Garcia in right. That's 4 walks from the 3 of them. Yeah. And that just on the bench. And meanwhile, the guys that I played did absolutely nothing in the department that I needed, with the exception of Kipnis. He drew 1 walk. The other thing is that with how close strikeouts were, I was going to sit Buster Posey. That was my 4 o'clock game. That was my later guy game, besides the night game guy with Dominic Smith. But that was the one other guy that I'm thinking that I should sit because of the strikeouts. Okay, so I had a phone conversation with Frank, and he literally told me that it was stupid to bench him because I'm afraid he was going to strike out. And I'll tell you what, I'm telling you this now, and I didn't get a chance to tell him when I was on the phone, but I would tell him to his face that if Buster Posey struck out enough to tie or lose me that category, I was never going to speak to Frank on a Sunday ever again. And here's what happened. I ended up playing Buster Posey, and he hits the first thing he does, Joe, is he hits a freaking double. And I was up by 1 double at that time with plenty of time to go. An insurance double that'll either win or tie me that category. Yep. And at that point, I'm thinking, you know what? Now, even if he does strike out enough, I'll give Frank that benefit of the doubt. So that all changed right there. But then he ends up going 3 for 3, a double, a run, and a walk. One of the walks came from him as well. Yeah. Still lost it by 3, but I will tell you, for a guy that got dropped, and for a guy that hasn't really lit up the world as far as catchers, I'd say he's been on the bottom half of this year. He's been on the team. That's what the team name is named after, and I'll give Frank one thing, he was right.
Yeah, Buster Posey is definitely going the way of Joe Mauer. You know, he's not the MVP candidate he once was. He's not it doesn't even look like he's the 300 hitter he used to be. But he's still a serviceable catcher, and, you know, you'll still get days like this where, you know, he goes 3 for 3 with a double, and, you know, I would be surprised. I don't know. I don't know what the Giants are going to do at the deadline. You know, Madison Bumgarner's obviously a really big trade chip, but I wouldn't be completely floored if Buster Posey moved on from the Giants either. Granted, it would be, you know, it'd be like seeing, I don't know, it would be like seeing Mike Piazza in a Padres uniform at the end of his career. You know what I mean? Like, it'd just be weird.
Yeah.
Let's jump to key players for this week. For you, Benny, it was Kevin Newman. It was Kevin Newman with a 407 average, no walks, so the same on base percentage, 4 runs, 2 doubles, 3 homers, 7 RBIs, a steal, and 4 strikeouts. Jason Hayward gave you a good week, 400 average, 438 on base, 5 runs, a double, a triple, 3 homers, 7 RBIs, a walk, and a strikeout. And finally, Trey Turner, 222 average, you don't like to see that, 276 on base percentage, that's not very great either, but he gave you 5 runs, a double, a homer, 3 RBIs, single-handedly won you stolen bases with 4, gave you 2 walks and 9 strikeouts with an error. Pitching-wise, it's all relief guys at this point, man. It's Aroldis Chapman with his 2 saves and 3 relief appearances. It's Sean Newcomb with his 3 clean relief appearances, and it's Kenley Jansen with his 2 relief appearances and a save. You know, your pitching staff really didn't come to play this week, outside of Adam Wainwright's 6 2/3 innings loss. Tell me what's going on with your pitching staff, man.
Well, you hit the nail on the head, man. It's not been a good pitching staff lately. Chris Sale is a big part of it. These last couple of starts, he's been cold. Gibson, he's sort of a guy now that you wonder if you can play him every day. The Twins were hot.
Mm-hmm.
You could play him all the time. He'd somehow get the win pitch at least serviceable. Now you're not even sure if you can do that. He pitched decently enough in his last start. He was on my bench, actually, against Nick. But that's one guy that I'm a little concerned with. I don't know exactly what I can do in every matchup. Tanaka, he's been solid enough for me. Wainwright, same thing as Gibson. It really comes down to the matchup. That's not exactly what you want. You want to have a guy that you can hand the ball to every single time. So I'm nitpicking at these 37 innings, figuring out a way to get to them, and that's what's happening. The bullpen, again, carries me as much as it can, and then the rest I try to do with just picking the right guy on the right day.
Yeah, in doing that, you're probably going to lose innings, you're probably going to lose wins, you're probably going to lose strikeouts.
100%.
You're pretty much guaranteed to win relief appearances and saves, but I don't know. I don't know if you're interested in making a move for a starter, but it might be something that you think about.
Maybe.
We'll jump over to Jimmy's key players. Anthony Rizzo had a good week for him. Only hit 200. You don't like to see that, but a .333 on base percentage, 6 runs, 2 doubles, 2 RBIs, 4 walks, and 6 strikeouts.
4 walks. That's what you got. Any guy that had 3 walks, like Gary Sanchez, Muncy, Bregman, Chu, all these freaking guys. And let me tell you something. Before I don't mean to interrupt you.
Nope, go
ahead. Remember where you're going with this.
Yep.
But I'll just say that Chu on Sunday, wasn't even supposed to play, and they put him in at the last second because he had the X and he wasn't initially in the lineup. He wasn't meant to play that Sunday, so Jimmy left him out, and he put someone else in instead, and that guy ended up getting walks, and Chu ended up going 0 for 4 on his bench. That was lucky, okay? But I'm just, I don't know if it would have made the difference. But I'm just saying right there in that particular time, that was something that kind of frustrated me. But, yeah, go ahead. So, Rizzo, unbelievable week. Sanchez, a 136, 7 strikeouts. But the 3 walks is what stands out to me with a lot of these guys.
Yeah, and it's funny. You literally hit the next 2 guys I was going to highlight for him right after you talked about Rizzo. Max Muncy, 280 average, 357 on base, 4 runs, a double, 3 homers, 12 RBIs, and 3 walks with 4 strikeouts. And Alex Bregman, 348 average, 423 on base, 4 runs, a double, a triple, a homer, an RBI, 3 walks, and 3 strikeouts with an error. Pitching-wise, man, he had a good pitching week. Mike Minor, the complete game, 1 earned run game with 7 strikeouts. Lance Lynn, 8 innings, a win, 10 strikeouts, and a walk, an 0.50 whip. And Zach Greinke, 2 starts, 13 innings, a win, 12 strikeouts, a 2.77 ERA, and a 1 whip. Looks like he just ran into a really strong team on a really strong week pitching-wise. If it wasn't for, Brad Hand having a bad start, and Brad Peacock having a bad start, and Matt Boyd not being Matt Boyd, man, he would have had a really, he pitched to an 0.99 whip. That's impressive.
Incredible.
Yeah.
With bad starts there, for him to do that is incredible. I had a 4.06 ERA. That's decent enough.
It's competitive. It's competitive.
On this particular 3.25 ERA, we were still having some pretty bad starts. He annihilated me pitching-wise.
Yeah. Unless you got something else, we'll jump to the next matchup.
Well, yeah, I will. I'll say Jimmy, at this point, a little bit of a slide lately. He picked it up against Bobby. That was an incredible matchup this past week.
Yep.
But in this case, I feel like this came down to me getting power hungry. I don't know why I came out with 13 home runs all of a sudden and 40 RBIs. I'm usually in the mid-20s with RBIs. The week before it, I think I had something like 36 RBIs, so maybe it was coming. But to the tune of 13 home runs and 40 RBIs. One guy you didn't mention that I picked up in the week, Maikel Franco, who had a couple of home runs on my bench, I believe, and a couple doubles as well. But 4 runs, 2 home runs, 6 RBIs, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts, the error of 500 batting average and a 556. None of this ended up mattering. He did have also a walk on the bench that could have collectively helped with if I had them all the other ones right. But just in general, for some reason, my team that doesn't hit a lot of home runs, in this particular week, I walked into a team that normally does better. He only hit 6 home runs. 34 RBIs should have won it for him. 32 runs should have won it for him. My 38 runs, 13 home runs, 40 RBIs. Unusual from my team, but it happened on this particular week.
Yeah, you've got a ton of guys all hitting really well at the same time, and I'm just thankful it's not the playoffs and that it's July and all of this is happening for you. Let it happen in July. Let's jump over to my matchup with Josh Haber, which I'm pretty disappointed in myself in, but all things considered, I think I did fairly well given the lack of time I had. I came in as the number 3 seed. Josh came in as the 13, and he takes down the win 12-7. Close categories this week. Josh didn't win anything really close. I won by 1 RBI and .004 batting average. We tied in triples and errors. For
on base percent, hold on, Joe. On base percentage was certainly close going into it, but it ended up coming down to the fact that Freddie Freeman had a good game and Donaldson had a good game, and that made it so that he could take that on base percentage. Because if those guys were terrible and your guys were good, that would have changed also. He almost won batting average.
I didn't, like I said, man, that weekend was really busy for me, so it was difficult for me to keep up with it. But
that was just the one thing, but yeah.
Okay. And here's the thing. If you're saying that on Sunday, I had a .421 on base percentage that day, and he had a .447. So that really is the difference.
It really is, man, because honestly, that could have swung any way going into Sunday, and it was bouncing back and forth. You know, it was 11-8. You know, it just kept on bouncing back and forth until he finally cemented that one, and then just at the end, you had Freddie Freeman up there. You know, if he gets a hit, and then all of a sudden now Donaldson, because Freeman was the last out in that night game against the Mets, if he gets a hit, then all of a sudden it just comes down to Donaldson. So average was really close, and I think going into that game and all week, I mean, this matchup was amazingly close. The score does not indicate how close this matchup was.
Well, I appreciate that. On Josh's bench this week, he went 10 for 46, which is a .217 batting average, 6 runs, 2 doubles, a homer, 6 RBIs, 7 walks, 10 strikeouts, and an error. You know, I've given Josh a lot of shit this year for a lot of the managerial decisions that he's made. This week was a bit different. He only had a couple of bad moves, like on Wednesday, Eric Hosmer 3 for 5, a homer and 4 RBIs on the bench, while Brandon Lau 0 for 3 in left field, and Marcell Ozuna 1 for 3 at the utility spot. You touched on it a couple of weeks ago. He needs to play Eric Hosmer every day. Let this guy play. He's going to rack up some stats for you. Or make a trade. You've got plenty of first base eligible guys. You can let this guy go. On Saturday, Nico Goodrum went 2 for 3 with 2 RBIs on the bench, and he played Matt Beatty, the first base, third base, left field kid for the Dodgers. Well, he didn't play that day in left field, so it was kind of one of those, well, thank you for that, because those 2 RBIs would have won him RBIs.
Yeah, similar thing happened on Sunday. Nick Goodrum played shortstop as Drupal Cabrera did not play that day. There was a double that Goodrum hit, and I believe that Josh only won by 2 doubles. Yep. That could have been extremely big. So
plus we're discounting. We're kind of discounting all of these hits that he's leaving on the bench with Goodrum on Saturday and Sunday. Batting average was only 4 points apart.
Right.
So
yeah, but the 1 for 4 on Sunday would have hurt that.
Yeah, but the 2 for 3 the day before It's basically a 3 for 7 over the 2 days that Goodrum was on the bench. Roster moves for him. He finally got rid of Brandon Morrow. You know, he's held on to him for this long. I do want to give him credit for Tyler Beatty, Alex Young, and Mike Leake. I don't think I'm going to hit on them in key players. No, I don't. But those 3 guys picked up on the 27th, which was about like Thursday. Each one of them. Young, 5 innings, a win, 5 strikeouts, 1 earned. Leake, 6 innings, 4 earned, 5 strikeouts. Beatty, 5 1/3, looks like 2 earned, 3 strikeouts. They weren't lights out, but the win was important. The strikeouts, he pushed me really hard. He won ERA and WHIP thanks to these guys. Like, the moves were really solid, but the ones that happened later in the week, I'll hit on in key players. We'll jump over to my team real quick. Man, it hurts to see this kind of shit. I went 8 for 21, which is a .380 batting average, 4 runs, 3 homers, 7 RBIs, 9 strikeouts, and an error. Tuesday, when I was still in town, was really the rough day. Mitch Garver went 3 for 5 with a homer on the bench, 3 RBIs, and 2 runs scored. Brian McCann went 1 for 3 at catcher. I ended up dropping Brian McCann because I got Jorge Alfaro back, and I'll hit on him in a second. Oscar Mercado went 2 for 5 with an RBI, and I couldn't get him into the lineup because I had Giancarlo Stanton in the lineup. And I guess now is a decent time to talk about the fact that Giancarlo Stanton is made of fucking, like, sugar glass or something. This guy's played 6 games all fucking season. All of them on my team. But I just gave up a haul for him. And I see him come back, and he hits a bomb for me, and I'm like, this is it. This is going to take off. And he fucking strains his knee now? He's out until August. Like, I have to find a way to patchwork my right field position for a while until he comes back. If he's back in early August, great. It's the last couple of weeks to the playoff push. He comes back in late August. I have to make the playoffs without him. And that fucking sucks. On Wednesday the 26th, that was the day I flew out, and I was unavailable for basically it was like 7 hours because I flew for 4, and it's a 3-hour time difference, so, you know, it was, I took off, and nothing was set. I landed, Brian McCann's hit a solo home run on my bench, and Mitch Garver isn't playing, and I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah.
And finally on Sunday, Jorge Alfaro goes 2 for 4 with a homer and 2 RBIs, and Mitch Garver goes 0 for 4. I can't give up either of these catchers, and I've run with 2 catchers most of the year to try and catch as many stats as I can from that position from guys that would be starters on other teams. You know, first it was Alfaro and Williams Astudillo, and now it's Garver, who I don't know why he was let go. Maybe it was the injury. But, man, he's been really good this year, and I'll be happy to keep him on my team. You know, even if it's a split time right now with Alfaro. You know, roster moves-wise, I picked up Adam Plutko for a start on Monday, and it got rain-shortened, and he was pitching really well against Kansas City, man, and I feel like that could have been a much different start. He probably could have gotten the win. I could have been chasing a bit differently. You know, I just lost Benji. I'm going to put this on hold for a moment. All right, guys, sorry about the technical difficulties. I was talking about my catcher situation with Alfaro and Mitch Garver and the roster moves I did this week. You know, I streamed Michael Wacha. He wasn't very good for me. In hindsight, I probably shouldn't have even started him, but, you know, it is what it is. We'll jump to key players this week for Josh. It was, even without the home run he hit and the 4 RBIs that he left on the bench on Wednesday, he had a great week for him. He went 643 with the same on base percentage, 3 runs, 2 doubles, a homer, 5 RBIs, and a strikeout. So to add that homer and 4 RBIs, he would have had a monster week for Josh if he had kept him in the lineup. This is a guy that we've talked about in the past. He needs to be playing this guy in his utility spot just about every day, and to see a guy like that go off the way he did against me really, really sucks to see. For Josh as well, Freddie Freeman, same type of week, 276 average, 344 on base, 4 runs, 2 doubles, a homer, 4 RBIs, 2 steals, which was huge, 3 walks and 10 strikeouts. And finally, Bryce Harper finally gets on this list, 269 average, 406 on base percentage, 6 runs, 2 doubles, 2 homers, 7 RBIs, 6 walks, and 7 strikeouts. Offensively, Josh held his own, and he won doubles, he won steals, which is thanks to Freddie Freeman's 2 steals. I don't think Freddie Freeman has that many steals this year. He's only got 3, so to get 2 in a week is pretty huge.
Yeah, no question, especially because wins the category by 2. So
Absolutely.
Everyone was, like you said, everyone was huge.
Yeah. Pitching-wise, Greg Holland, though he has blown up recently, was good in this matchup. 3 relief appearances, 2 saves. That obviously wins him the category. 3.86 ERA. He did give up a home run somewhere in there, but he had an 0.86 whip with 3 strikeouts. Michael Pineda is one of the streams that I want to hit on. He picked up Pineda on the 29th, which would be Saturday for that start. And Pineda went 6 innings, 1 earned, 8 strikeouts. The start was against the White Sox. And, he's been up and down a lot this season. But he's been more good than bad. He's had a few really rough outings, but he's been more good than bad this year, and I think he's a really solid 4 starter for this Twins lineup, for this Twins rotation. Finally, Chase Anderson, another guy he streamed. 5 1/3, a win, 6 strikeouts, a 1.69 ERA, and 0.75 WHIP. The start was against. At home against Seattle. Another lineup that was pretty rough. These are guys that, in hindsight, I should have been grabbing, but I just didn't. I obviously didn't have the time to go after them. And I had to counter with guys like Michael Wacha and Andrew Haney and Tyler Mahle, and it wasn't the same kind of pitching performances, and it shows. I won innings, I won strikeouts, and I won relief appearances. He pretty much dominated me on the pitching side. My key players, it's my infield again. Javi Baez, 304 average, 333 on base, 5 runs, 2 doubles, a homer, 5 RBIs, a steal, a walk, 4 strikeouts. 2 errors is never nice to see, but I tied that category, so I'll take that. Jose Abreu has been a godsend for me. 391 average, 440 on base, 4 runs, a double, 2 homers, 6 RBIs, a walk, and 6 strikeouts. And finally, Yohan Moncada, 467 average, 529 on base, 4 runs, 2 homers, 4 RBIs, a walk, and 5 strikeouts. My infield is going to carry me. I'm not even touching on, Frankie Lindor, who hit 4 doubles this week. It was... This is what's going to carry me to the playoffs if I make it. Pitching-wise, Scott Oberg, 4 relief appearances, all clean, 8 strikeouts. That's a start. That's a whole nother start for me.
Yeah, this is big. 4 appearances alone. Even if it was an okay, but 4 completely clean, untouched. This is killing me because this is a guy that I let go after I assumed Wade Davis is just taking off the closer role. And what do I need? A reliever that plays for the Colorado Rockies. But you're making the most of it. This was very big. Absolutely.
Jose Barrios has arguably been my best pitcher all season. 7 1/3. He did lose, but he got 5 strikeouts, a 3.68 ERA, and a 1.23 WHIP. The start was looks like it was at Chicago. He did give up 2 homers, which were probably to, Moncada, Abreu, Eloy Jimenez, somewhere in there. But he's been fantastic for me, and pitched to a 3 ERA. He's been great. Finally, Charlie Morton, who now apparently is the key piece I acquired in that big trade with James. 6 1/3. He did take the loss as well. 7 strikeouts, a 4.26 ERA, 1.42 WHIP. The start wasn't fantastic. It was in Minnesota. It was a tough opponent, but he's been lights out all season, and I love the fact that he goes up against a tough team like Minnesota and gives me a quality start there. I think that'll do it on this matchup, unless you've got something else.
Yeah, the only thing I'll throw in there is an opportunity that didn't happen. Firstly, you picked up Jake Lamb, I believe, on this particular week.
I did. I only had him for one day, though.
Okay. On Wednesday, he goes 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts and an error on the bench. That to me, my friend, it's overlooked because, that's a guy that could have very easily played with Yohan Moncada not even playing. That happens. Maybe you lose batting average along the way.
Yeah, so I picked him up.
That's one that I
picked him up on the 26th and dropped him on the 30th. So did I play him on the 26th is the question.
Meanwhile, you're checking that. I'll say that
Sure.
As far as Josh goes, on that same day on Tuesday, 2 for 4 from Kyle Seager on the bench. You're saying, well, he puts him in instead of Josh Donaldson, who goes 0 for 4 that day and goes down the line the rest of the week. Maybe Seager wins him batting average, but Seager also had that error on the bench. So we're talking about on the same day, you both had an error on the bench. When that stat ends up tied, that's overlooked. That was an opportunity for one of you to win or lose that category on Tuesday. Both of those errors on the bench seem kind of fascinating that they both happened on the same day, and both things that could have certainly happened. If you see, Josh Donaldson isn't going to play well that day, I'm going to give Seager finally a chance, and for you, there was no reason to not play him with Moncada sitting that day, but you end up benching the guy that would have lost you that category.
Yeah. I played Lamb the 27th and 28th. On the 27th, 0 for 2 with a walk and a strikeout. On the 28th, which was Friday, 1 for 3 with an RBI. So, he won me the RBI category if you really look at it that way. That one RBI on Friday.
Absolutely. Every freaking RBI that you got from these guys, that one from Mercado, one from Garver, they all count. One from Lamb, one from Anderson. They all matter to either tie. You don't win the category.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's jump over to the 4-12 matchup for this week. It was Teoscar named Desire Mike Haber taking on Bumpin' Uglazari Nisman. And I hate to say this, but I'm starting to think this might be the nail in the coffin on Ari's season. He takes a 12-6 loss to a really good manager in Mike Haber. Close categories. Mike didn't win anything close. Ari won by a loss and a save, and they tied in homers, steals, and errors. For Mike this week, he went 14 for 44 on his bench. That's a .318 batting average. 5 runs, 4 doubles, 3 homers, 15 RBIs, 3 walks, 8 strikeouts, and 2 errors, all on his bench. Seeing the 3 homers on the bench when they tied there is pretty frustrating, especially when you look at Michael Chavis on Saturday the 29th. He hit 2 homers and drove in 6 RBIs on the bench, and Justin Turner went 0 for 3 at third base. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to start Michael Chavis over a guy like Justin Turner pretty much ever, but if you could find a way to get him into that lineup, it's definitely a game changer. On Sunday, Mike left Eugenio Suarez, who went 2 for 4 with a homer and 3 RBIs, and Turner didn't play at third base.
Wow.
So that's the big one that really sticks out, because if he gets that Suarez homer, then we're talking 13-6. We're talking a much bigger swing here. Yordan Alvarez was on his bench. He went 2 for 3 with 3 RBIs, and Michael Chavis went over 5 at utility. So he was playing Michael Chavis the day after the big 2-homer output, but he sacrificed Yordan Alvarez for that. Nothing in the way of roster moves that really sticks out. He did add the aforementioned Mitch Haniger to his team. Looks like he'll sit Mitch Haniger on the DL until he comes back. Not sure where he fits in. Probably just as a backup to Hicks and Betts going forward. He's got a pretty stacked outfield now with Alvarez and Hicks, Betts, Crush Davis, Jock Peterson, and now Mitch Haniger. Moving over to Ari, man, this was rough to look at. It was like every single day he had something he could have done that would have swung this matchup.
Yeah.
I actually ended up not totaling it out, so I'm not going to have his exact numbers on the bench. We'll just go day by day. On Monday, he had Jay Bruce and Jake Bowers both not starting for first base. Bowers never got into the game, and Jay Bruce hit a pinch hit home run, which could have won him that category. On Tuesday, Alex Verdugo gives him a steal on the bench, and Cole Calhoun goes 0 for 4 in right field.
The Monday one, by the way, with Bruce, I think I remember saying that there's an American League guy being left in there, and there's more of a chance that Bruce would come into the game.
Exactly. He's going to pinch hit for the pitcher's spot. He's going to, they're going to double switch. They're going to do something. Yeah. And Jay Bruce has been hot for him lately. So it's one of those, you want to see that guy in that lineup. And, for whatever reason, Ari felt the better matchup was to try to put Bowers, who was, I think they were playing, I want to say they were playing like Baltimore or something. And, I get it if you're going to get a pinch hitter. They're playing Kansas City. Okay. And Jay Bruce was, of course, playing our Mets. And, of course, he homered. Yeah. Because, of course, he did.
Yeah, I remember. Late in the game. Yeah. I do remember that.
Like I said, Tuesday it was Verdugo on the bench with a steal. He went 1 for 4. Cole Calhoun 0 for 4 in right field. On Wednesday, Shohei Ohtani 3 for 3 with a double and a steal on the bench. Arenado and Vlad Guerrero Jr. combined for 0 for 8 at third base and utility. We talked about this a lot previously, that he's kind of pigeonholed himself into playing Vlad and Arenado every day, and that comes at the expense of Shohei Ohtani, who's only utility eligible.
Right. And sometimes you just got to play that guy, especially when he has a multi-home run day on Sunday, and that's why you tied the category.
Exactly. That was Wednesday. Thursday, Alex Verdugo hits a 2-run homer on the bench, and Brian Reynolds goes 0 for 4 in left field. On Friday, Verdugo goes 2 for 4 with 3 runs, a homer, 2 RBIs on the bench. Cole Calhoun 0 for 4 in right field. On Saturday, Verdugo 3 for 5 on the bench. Brian Reynolds 0 for 3 in right field. We talked a lot about how Ari likes to carry a deep bench, and this is another one of those weeks, man, where this is coming at the he's doing it almost at the detriment of his own record, because even if he makes the decision, okay, I don't have Alex Verdugo on my team, well, okay, then your decision is made. But when you have this many decisions to make, you can't get them all right, and sometimes you run into the situation where you get them all wrong. And this is one of those weeks. Verdugo was absolutely a start this week. They were playing in Colorado. I don't see why you don't play all of your Colorado guys, Arenado, Blackman, and Desmond, and Alex Verdugo if he's playing every day. For me, I play every guy who plays in Colorado every chance I get, because it's a great hitter's park. It's the best hitter's park in baseball.
He gets himself so much closer on just from Monday if he does the Jay Bruce thing, and maybe we're talking about RBIs being just a little bit closer. There was certainly 7 RBIs on his bench to be able to make up for it. Plenty of home runs to make up for it. When you carry the deep bench, like you said, you take those risks. But for a guy that's made the playoffs as often as he has in the last 6 years or whatnot, he likes having a deep bench, and he likes to play by the numbers. I couldn't do it. You've done it before, but it's hard for you. You try to trade. Ari's not really a guy that trades often. I think the last trade he made was back in 2013. So it's just not something that you expect him to do. He's just going to do what he's always done, and that's carry the deep bench and play by the numbers. This year, it's worked against him.
Absolutely. There's nothing in the way of pitchers. I mean, he did pick up Steven Matz, who's now in the bullpen. He dropped Jake Bowers. He did pick up Andrew Kashner, who all of a sudden is like having some sort of mini renaissance to his career in Baltimore. Let's jump to key players. For Mike, who won the week, it was Aaron Hicks. 300 average, 360 on base, 6 runs, a double, 2 homers, 8 RBIs, 3 walks, and 6 strikeouts. Justin Turner, though I said that, maybe you want to bench him one day, he's pretty damn good. He's got a 316 average, a 458 on base percentage for the week, 9 runs, a double, 2 homers, 3 RBIs, 2 walks, and 3 strikeouts. And finally, Didi Gregorius, who we waited a long time to get, is paying off. 474 average, 524 on base percentage, 8 runs, a double, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, 2 walks, and 3 strikeouts. That series in London, man, was really huge for him. He went 4 for 10, 5 runs, a double, a homer, 4 RBIs, a walk, and 2 strikeouts in those 2 games. He was huge for him. Pitching-wise, Aaron Nola is starting to turn it around well enough. Like, his ERA is back under 4, which is good to see. His last 4 starts have been fantastic, and this was no different. He went 7 innings, 10 strikeouts, a walk, an 0.29 WHIP. The game was, of course, against our lowly New York Mets, so of course he just dominates the shit out of us, and he gets the win. Madison Bumgarner is doing well for him as well. 13 innings, 2 wins over 2 starts, 20 strikeouts, a 2.08 ERA, and 0.77 WHIP. The starts were against Colorado, in Colorado, 6 innings, a win, 11 strikeouts, and then at home against Arizona, 7 innings, 9 strikeouts, 1 earned. Just a fantastic week for him. Finally, Mike Soroka, 6 1/3, a win, 4 strikeouts, 2.84 ERA, 1.11 WHIP. Anybody else?
Getting hit in the hand, I think he did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
What I'll add is, as far as not from the key players, but just before we go into the other key players, I'll say that Sunday was incredible because Ari did have the lead at one point on Sunday. He did have the lead 10-9. Remember that average was 292 to 288. That on base percentage was 368 to 333. That home runs were tied. That doubles Ari won by 2. Errors ended up tied. There ended up being a Cole Calhoun error in Ari's outfield that ends up not winning him the category. Things in the pitching. So what I'll say is that as far as a 324, 395, 9 runs, a double, a home run, and 8 RBIs, 4 walks, that was all good enough to beat Ari's Sunday, which was 7 runs, not 9, but 7, 3 home runs, 6 RBIs, 367, 375, just not enough, even though it was a better day than Mike. He needed a bad day out of Mike, and Mike had a good enough Sunday to at least hold down a win, and it ends up being a lopsided win as a result.
Yeah, even with the...
And Mike had 2 errors. Mike had 2 errors on Sunday.
From Michael Chavis, yep.
And it's still that ties the category. Art doesn't win it.
Yep. Yeah, in fact, Michael Chavis ended up losing strikeouts for Mike, as he had 3 strikeouts.
He had an 0 for 9 from Encarnacion and Chavez, but he still could hold on barely onto average and on base percentage. And he still batted .324 on the day. 9 runs. And I mean, it was a very good Sunday.
Even if he plays one of Eugenio Suarez or Yordan Alvarez for Michael Chavis, there. He ends up winning errors. Strikeouts is now one strikeout in Ari's favor rather than 4.
Right.
It's
the strikeouts flipped all the time. I mean, it was a crazy Sunday for the two of these guys.
Yep. Ari's key players.
And as far as the pitching goes, Ari throws 6 1/3. He gets the win. He doesn't get the loss. He gets a 0 ERA. And that was still pretty darn close. As far as Michael's Sunday, he goes 8 2/3 with the win and a 1.4 ERA, 0.50. So when you look at the matchup here, that the losses that didn't break. Mike had to throw his innings, and Ari had to do his to try to keep this ERA close enough. And if Mike's guy doesn't play well, or if Ari's, it came down to one guy having a worse. They both had unbelievable days.
Yeah.
And as a result, Ari, although had the lead, Mike held on to a longer lead that he had most of the week. Ari started to cut into it, but then on Sunday, at around 4 p.m. or so, as these strikeouts started happening against Ari, that's what it came down to.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to point out, on Sunday, if Mike doesn't bench his 2 relievers in the New York-Boston matchup, Tommy Kahnle gives him a clean inning, but Matt Barnes got rocked, and that would totally flip ERA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So ERA, average, on base, Ks, errors, but all these stolen bases, all these things were in play on the last freaking day, and Ari couldn't get one stolen base out of anybody.
Yep, absolutely.
Meanwhile, Mike did everything he needed to.
Yeah.
And he didn't get a stolen base either, but, he just did everything he needed to. Even with the 2 errors, he doesn't even lose that category.
Yeah, absolutely. Ari's key players this week, we're going to talk about Rougned Odor. He's had a really, really good month so far. 417 average, 462 on base percentage, 2 runs, 2 doubles, a triple, an RBI, and 2 strikeouts. I highlight him specifically because of the triples. He won the triples category 3-0, and obviously Odor gave him one of those. Charlie Blackmon gave him a great week. 393 average, 452 on base percentage, 11 runs, 2 doubles, a triple, 2 homers, 7 RBIs, 3 walks, and 6 strikeouts. Most of these games were in Colorado, so it's incredible that Charlie Blackmon just keeps putting up ridiculous numbers at home.
Yeah.
Finally, Shohei Ohtani, despite the day that he left him on the bench, 375 average and on-base percentage, 3 runs, 3 homers, 4 RBIs. He needed every single one of these homers in order to tie that category. It's just so much left to be desired on the bench. Pitching-wise for Ari, Sergio Romo got him a save, which he ended up winning 2-1. Romo gave him 3 relief appearances, clean, an 0.75 whip, 2 2/3, 2 strikeouts. Anthony DeSclafani gave him 6 shutout innings, 7 strikeouts, and a win. And Andrew Cashner gave him that aforementioned 7 innings and a win with 6 strikeouts. The thing, and we've said it before, the thing about Ari, and he's right at the cusp of the playoffs, right? Like I did the math, and I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of I'll do the math right now as far as what it would take to get to the playoff, where you should be at this point, or at the point that he was at. Should be at 137 2/3 after week 14. So as of this moment,
150. But okay, even less.
Yeah, it's 137 wins you should have at this point to be considered in the playoff race. Ari's 11 back of that. Now, he did get a good win that we'll talk about later this week over James, but I just don't know if that's enough, man. He's the last guy. Here's the thing. If we say that Ari is in, then is still in the hunt, well, then you kind of have to lump James Santangelo in there, and you have to lump Nick Homan in there, because these guys are right behind him. I don't know. I just think right now it's a 9-horse race for six spots, and Mike Sherman is the next bubble guy to drop. You know?
Yeah, around a 500 team. You'd think so.
Yeah. You can't
those
be
guys under. Yeah.
You can't be 20 under at the All-Star break, and because it's really tough to make that up in the next 8 weeks. And as far as
You need a lot of help. You need help from other teams.
He's got a lot of teams to jump. He's got to jump, 3-4 other teams? His schedule the rest of the way: Josh Hader, Frank, Jimmy Dunlap, Nick Homan, you, Bobby, me, Jason, final 4 weeks. That final 4 weeks.
So I heard about 4 of those names where he can kind of control his destiny where they're guys that are underneath him.
Sure,
you know?
it's...
So, like, if he just wins all of those and then just hopes that he gets help from other teams beating other teams, that gets him a little closer, and then beat the teams that's in front of him. He has to probably win 7 out of 8 weeks, which I know, 7 out of 8 weeks is certainly possible.
It can be done.
But for this guy, for Nick, for James, it requires a miraculous thing to happen in the last 8 matchups, but I'm not going to say it's impossible.
No, but it's definitely a push that needs to happen, and it needs to happen starting as soon as the All-Star break is over. You know, he's got he's got Josh and Frank the next 2 weeks he can get healthy, but then 5 of his last 6 matchups are against contending teams, and Jimmy, you, me, Bobby, and Jason. Let's jump over to the next.
One more thing. You said how it affects. How about Mike? As far as almost losing this thing, to come out and double him up and stay in his spot in the playoff race was very big for Mike. So it's when we talk about it's a bigger win for this guy or a bigger loss for that guy, we can argue Mike Haver just had an enormous win that he could have just went about 500 with Ari. At the end, because of a big Sunday, he ends up staying doubled up on Ari, and that is so enormous.
Yeah.
And if he gets in the playoffs with a 5 seed or a 6 seed, we'll look at how important it was to continue what he was doing against Ari throughout the matchup. A matchup he almost lost, and he ends up winning at the weigh-in.
Yeah. And
he wins big.
And the thing about Mike is he hit the doldrums between week 8 and week 12. His losing streak there. You know, he lost 4 out of 5 with a tie to you in there. If he comes out of this and rattles off a few more wins here, which he can absolutely do, he's got a pretty soft schedule the rest of the way.
Manager.
You know, it's Uncle Barry, it's Andy Solar-Greco, it's Chris Levy, it's James Santangelo, it's James McCloskey, then Josh Haber, Frank, and Jimmy Dunlap to finish out his season. That's pretty favorable. And if he can, you know, it's 8 weeks. If he can rattle off 5 wins in there, he's a playoff team. I think even if he can rattle off 4 wins, he's a playoff team.
Likely he can win 4 out of 8.
Yeah.
But you never know.
Yeah. All right, let's jump over to the next matchup. It's Chris Levy versus Mike Sherman. Jose told a story, gets the win over Kershaw for Passover 10-9. It's another really close matchup.
Awesome matchup, by the way.
This week was full of fantastic matchups. When I looked at just the scores, I saw so many close matchups, and I said, all right, we can't skip this week. I've got to do the research. Let's do it. And I did it last night. It's not as great as I would have hoped, but I'm happy to be doing this week with you.
It's worth the work. Like, I know it's a pain in the butt, but I'm proud of you for going through with it, man, because this really was an amazing week of matchups that really mean a lot going forward. So
there were a lot of...
They weren't ignored.
There were a lot of guys who were really close in the standings against each other playing. You know, there was a big upset in there. You know, there were a lot of things going on that needed to be covered. This was the 8-9 matchup. You know, close categories this week. Chris wins by 2 strikeouts by a pitcher. Mike wins by 2 doubles and 2 RBIs, and they tied in triples and relief appearances. For Chris, who won the week, 11 for 39 on the bench. That's 282 average, 4 runs, a triple, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, 6 walks, 7 strikeouts, and an error. The triple is the one that's important, though. It was J.P. Crawford, whom he picked up the same day that he hit that triple and left him on the bench. He could have started him for Eduardo Escobar or Dansby Swanson, who combined went over 7. It's the only thing that sticks out, and it would have won him a category here. It would have made it 11-9. Who knows where that changes everything, you know? The one thing, though, that Chris did that I just can't wrap my head around. On Sunday, did you see what he did as far as roster moves is concerned?
No.
Okay. On Sunday the 30th, he wakes up. Hang on, let me pull this up and timeline this because it was so bizarre to watch.
Yeah, it's very interesting, though, I'm sure. Because I know that on Sundays he just goes crazy over pitchers.
That's just it. He didn't just go crazy over pitchers. Like, it was so bizarre. Okay. He wakes up Sunday morning at 7:45 and picks up Adam Simber, relief pitcher for Cleveland. 10 minutes later at 7:55, he drops him. And a minute later, 7:57, picks up Cam Bedrosian. At 10 minutes of 9, so an hour later, he drops Cam Bedrosian and picks up Chichi Gonzalez, who's the starter for Colorado that night. But 2 minutes later, drops Chichi Gonzalez and picks Cam Bedrosian back up. And 2 minutes after that, drops AJ Minter for Chichi Gonzalez.
And then doesn't play Chichi.
And then doesn't play him. What are we doing? What the fuck was that?
I think it's...
That was an hour and 15 minutes of him just so indecisive on 3 guys. Did any of them pitch that day? Is the real question. Cam Bedrosian pitched that day.
Where he was going for those strikeouts, he was going for the relief appearances, he was going for the strikeouts, he was going for the relief appearances.
Yeah.
It was just, that's what I'm guessing what was happening. He wasn't sure what he had the best chance of.
Well, Cam Bedrosian pitched and had 0 strikeouts, a 13.50 ERA, a 6 WHIP, but the relief appearance, which tied it.
Yes.
Chichi Gonzalez, 4 innings, 2 strikeouts, a 6.75 ERA, a 1.75 WHIP, and Adam Simber did not play.
Yeah, if he plays Chichi, he ties strikeouts, right? Because he lost by 2. No, he won strikeouts.
He won strikeouts. Yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter. But no, it's the fact that he picked up at the end of the day, sticking to Bedrosian, and that he gets the relief appearance to tie is what's big. And
AJ Minter, the guy he dropped last to pick Chichi back up, did get into the game. He would have won relief appearances if he hung on to him.
Yeah, if he hung on both of them.
Yeah. Amazing. I was looking at this and I'm like, this guy has no idea what to do today. Like, he is just, I don't know if he was panicking. I don't know if he was, just insane. Mike Sherman, 4 for 14 on his bench, 3 runs, 2 doubles, a homer, an RBI, and 5 strikeouts. It's as solid a week as you can expect from him. The only thing was Willie Calhoun on Wednesday the 26th. Went 3 for 4, 2 runs, 2 doubles, a homer, and an RBI on the bench. But it doesn't look like there was a real way to get him into the lineup that makes sense. I'm pulling it up right now. So, yeah, he was on the bench.
This is unheard of. Can we talk about Sunday? How Michael, through 25 innings to the 432, he didn't give up a home run. He didn't give up 1 home run. And that was what I'm thinking was going on, that maybe Chris is thinking, I know I don't got a shot at innings anymore. This guy's got 7 or 8 guys going today. Forget innings. I got to figure out a way to hold on to strikeouts. Mm-hmm. And then when he saw how many guys, he said, forget about strikeout. I might as well sit Chichi because I'm still ahead by 2 home runs given up. And there should be a chance that this guy gives up a home run. Actually, Mike ends up giving up no home runs. Mm-hmm. So I guess there was that possibility. Chichi could have screwed him if he played him. But, at this point, I think Chris did
did the right thing. Yeah, you wish he had Minter if he wasn't even going to start Chi because it didn't matter. But that was unbelievable what Mike's pitching did. The fact that he didn't give up one home run in 25 innings in one day.
Yeah, 21 strikeouts, 25 innings, a 4.32 ERA, a 1.68 WHIP. What you don't like to see is the fact that he gave up 14 walks, which is exactly the difference in how much he lost walks by.
Right, but then he doesn't win innings.
Right, absolutely. You know.
So, I mean, he traded one for the other there.
Yeah.
But to go with 5 starters, Chris Stain got no shot at this. Forget it. You know? And he still ends up winning strike without pitching Chi. And with Mike going with 5 starters, he still and Chris still holds on to strikeouts. So that was huge too.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Nothing in the way. Oh, so Mike Sherman had to drop Jordan Hicks and Alex Reyes. I'm sure that hurts him. You know, you lose Jordan Hicks to Tommy John surgery. You lose Alex Reyes, who, you know, is such a hyped prospect, and it would be really great to actually see that kid pitch for an extended period of time. He also picked up and dropped my mean machine, Willians Astudillo. Good on you, Sherman. Always liked you. Other than that, there wasn't really. I mean, the pickups that you talked about: Jordan Zimmerman, Marco Gonzalez, Steven Brault, Gabriel Noah. Those 4 guys on Sunday, they win him innings, and they almost won him strikeouts.
Yeah.
Key players.
Also,
go ahead.
I'll say on the Sunday that on the night game, Jeff McNeil and Pete Alonso absolutely wore Chris out. And when I was looking at how close some of these stats were going in, and then RBIs is the only thing that maybe Mike can win, and he gets 4 RBIs, 2 apiece between McNeil and Alonso, and Mike wins the category 33-31. So I just thought that was really just, at the end, like, poor Chris is just like, he wants like at least like more than one, like a 10-9 win, fine, it's still a win. It would have been nice to have a little bit.
Sure.
McNeil and Alonso just picks on him at the end and grabs that category.
Yeah,
so
just snipes that one away.
Yeah.
Yep. Key players this week for Chris, who won the week. It's Eduardo Escobar, man. This guy is just lights out. 417 average, 481 on base percentage, 6 runs, a double, a homer, 5 RBIs, a steal, 3 walks, and 4 strikeouts with an error. Dansby Swanson, 409 average, 435 on base percentage, 5 runs, 4 doubles, a homer, 5 RBIs, a steal, a walk, and 5 strikeouts. And Jackie Bradley Jr., who was kicking around, he's kicked around a few teams this season. He's now back where he started because Chris was the one who drafted him in the 14th round. He hit 467 with a 556 on base, 4 runs, 2 homers, 2 RBIs, 3 walks, and a strikeout. Pitching-wise for Chris, Lucas Giolito, 10 2/3, a win, 11 strikeouts, a 2.53 ERA, and a 1.03 WHIP. Julio Urias, 6 innings, a win, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, nothing earned, an 0.67 an 0.67 WHIP. And finally, Josh Hader, who I haven't touched on at all this year. 3 innings, 2 clean relief appearances, 2 saves, and considering he won saves by 2, that's the guy I'll point to and give it to on that one.
Yeah, and tying relief appearances as well. He needed every one of them.
Absolutely. Mike's team, Gleyber Torres is pretty friggin' good. 500 average, 652 on base percentage, 7 runs, a double, a homer, 2 RBIs, 7 walks, 2 strikeouts, and 2 errors. He won walks by 8, so there's your 7 walks. Manny Machado had a good week finally. 273 average, 333 on base, 5 runs, 4 homers, 9 RBIs, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, and an error. And Fernando Tatis Jr., 450 average, 542 on base percentage, 8 runs, a double, 3 homers, 5 RBIs, 3 steals, which he won by 6. He got 3 steals from Tatis and 4 from Acuna, who I'm not even touching on.
Ridiculous. Yeah, the offense. Mike's offense has been so darn good for like a month, at least.
Yeah. Pitching-wise, again, it's guys we hit on. Jordan Zimmerman was fantastic for him on Sunday. 6 innings, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, 1 earned, and 1 whip. Mike Fiers gave him a good start. 6 2/3, a win, 1 earned, a walk, and 4 strikeouts. And Luke Jackson, who, granted, did not give him the saves category, but he got him 3 clean innings, 2 saves, 5 strikeouts. Yusmeiro Petit gave him 4 relief appearances.
That's awesome.
Biagini gave him 3.
And he didn't even give up a run. In all 4 relief appearances, Petit doesn't give up a run. That's how you have a bullpen. Do you remember Petit, Joe? Was he not on our team?
Was he on the Mets? I think so.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he was on the Mets.
Yeah. I remember him being really good. When was he really... Was he on the Giants one championship year?
Yeah, unbelievable.
He was really good for them. Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, I was just ranting about the Mets bullpen. I see all these, decent bullpen guys that the Mets could have had. Anyone could have had.
Hansel Robles annoys the shit out of me.
Yeah.
That he's closing on the Angels.
Swarzak.
Yeah.
He plays for 3 different teams this year or whatever.
Yeah. All right, let's jump over to another matchup. It's going to be James Santangelo, Snell My Shorts, against handed the week away Nick Homan. Nick takes down a big win here, 14-6. It kind of, in much the same way that I thought Ari's loss put the nail in his coffin for his season, man, this loss really hurts James Santangelo. It puts him 23 games under 500 at this point after week 14 as well. So it could be the beginning of the end for him. Close categories, James wins by a walk and a relief appearance. Nick wins by a triple, and they tied in steals. For Nick on the bench, 5 for 23. That's a .217 batting average. 3 runs, a double, a triple, an RBI, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts, and an error. The triple is from Jacoby Jones on Tuesday. He had him on the bench, and Franmil Reyes went 1 for 5 at the utility spot. I'm not advocating playing Jacoby Jones over Franmil Reyes, but when you lose... I'm sorry, when you... he won triples. I'm sorry. What the hell did he need? Oh, you know what it was? He benched the shit. Yeah, he needed walks. What really stuck out, he benched Daniel Hudson all week. All week. The guy got into 3 games. That's 3 relief appearances. He would have won that category.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that one should have been one. When you lose by 1 and you see that, that's disappointing.
Yeah.
That's a start. That's a guy that needed to play every day.
Yeah. As far as moves are concerned, he traded Marcus Stroman for Austin Riley. He added Alex Wood and a couple of other pitchers. Nothing really to write home about. It was a really good offensive week for him, though.
Yeah.
For James, 7 for 34 on the bench. That's a .206 average. A run, 2 doubles, 3 RBIs, 5 strikeouts, and an error. Only made 1 roster move, dropping Homer Bailey for Chance Sisco. This just strikes me as a matchup of one team was really hot for the week and the other team just was not. This was, an offense that we talked about many weeks ago where it could be one of the best offenses in the league, and it just didn't show up this week for James. Now, granted, 10 homers should win you a week. 30 RBIs should at least be competitive, but a .226 average and a .299 on base just isn't going to cut the mustard. And I feel like he should have been chasing something here toward the end. James Santangelo should have, and just to not see any roster moves just shows me it's not there this year for him.
He lost hope a while ago, but his pitching has failed him.
Yeah.
He absolutely failed him. It's disappointing that he's had a number of weeks, not this one, where he's brought in about a 300 average and a near 400 on base percentage, but his pitching just continues to be bad. I mean, there are times when he's benched pitchers, and those pitchers have been awful, and he's gotten it right.
Yep.
But even still, I mean, Snell has just been so disappointing for him, and it starts there because that was the second pick.
Yeah. Let's jump to key players for Nick this week. It was DJ LeMahieu again. He was the player of the week either last week or the week before. 625 average, 654 on base percentage, 8 runs, 3 doubles, a triple, 2 homers, 10 RBIs, 2 walks, and 4 strikeouts. This guy is unreal. For every Yankee fan who was out there this offseason thinking, oh, we're going to get Manny Machado. You've got a guy better than Manny Machado right now.
They snubbed this guy when they snubbed him. Yankee fans were snubbing this guy when he signed him. Oh, he's in Colorado. Oh, anyone can win a batting title at Colorado. Come on.
Yeah.
Let's get real here.
Yeah.
As a professional hitter in the middle of your infield, you would take a 275 out of that guy with everybody else in that lineup. This guy is getting pitches to hit, and he's hitting them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Rhys Hoskins had a good counting stat week. I'm not going to say he hit well because he only hit 160, but he had a .313 on base percentage, 3 runs, 3 homers, 5 RBIs, 6 walks, and 8 strikeouts. He needed every single one of those homers. He needed the RBIs. You know, the strikeouts weren't enough to lose him that week, and the walks were almost enough to get him the win in that category. Franmil Reyes also is a nice find for him. 286 average, 348 on base, 4 runs, 4 homers, 5 RBIs, 2 walks, and 4 strikeouts. When you go into a matchup with an offense as strong as James, this is the type of shit you love to see. You know, 4 homers from this guy, 2 homers from Austin Riley, 3 homers from Miguel Sano. You know, just...
Oh, yeah.
He dump trucked him. He absolutely dump trucked him.
Yeah, 10 home runs wins you the week, or ties. That's basically that round number, but it should win you. 16 home runs is tough to beat.
Yeah.
My 40 RBIs would have taken Nick, but 39 is tough to beat. 34 runs, I mean, yeah, he dump trucked him. Great offensive week from Nick.
Absolutely. And pitching-wise, he held his own. Granted, he didn't win innings or wins, but he did everything else he should have. He won saves.
In almost 50 innings, he had a great ERA, right?
Wade Davis gives him 3 saves. That wins that category. You know, that was the first key pitcher. John Lester, 11 2/3, a win, a loss, 15 strikeouts, a 2.31 ERA, and a 103 WHIP. And Shane Bieber, 13 1/3, a win, 17 strikeouts, a 1.35 ERA, and an 0.83 WHIP. He dump trucked him on offense.
Before Swarzak goes on the DL, he gets 2 relief appearances. He goes an inning and 2/3. He doesn't give up a run. He gets 2 strikeouts. I realize that he still lost this category by 1, but he got him that much closer. The 2 appearances by Swarzak. Just wanted to throw out that was a Met.
Yeah, another Met. And again, if he plays Daniel Hudson after, did he pick him up this week? No, he was on his bench. But once Swarzak drops to the DL, if he throws Hudson in there, he gets 1, maybe 2 of these relief appearances. And
I don't know if Swarzak went to the DL this early, though. I think he was still playing at that point.
He went on the DL. So his last appearance was the 28th.
Okay.
He pitched 2/3 of an inning clean. Hudson got into the game the next day on the 29th. So
not playing. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For James's key players, David Dahl is really good, you know, when he plays. 296 average, 286 on base percentage, 6 runs, 2 doubles, 4 homers, 14 RBIs, and 8 strikeouts. Brandon Belt gave him a good week. 190 average, you don't like that, but a 357 on base percentage. That's 4 runs, a double, a homer, 2 RBIs, 6 big walks that he needed every single one of. And finally, Kyle Schwarber, who hit 280 with a 308 on base percentage, 3 runs, 2 doubles, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, a walk, 7 strikeouts, and an error. Pitching-wise, this was hard to find. Robbie Ray pitched okay, 10 innings, 14 strikeouts, a 6 ERA. Blake Snell, 9 1/3, 16 strikeouts, an 8.68 ERA. And Jake Arrieta, 12 innings, 2 wins, 8 strikeouts, a 6.75 ERA.
Terrible. That's terrible performances all in 1 week from the guys that are supposed to keep you in these pitching categories. All Nick had to do is play okay this week. If James is going to have a 226 average and an under 300 on base percentage and a 5.28 ERA, you just need to be okay and you're going to dominate. That's what happened.
That's exactly what happened. And, you know, Nick now finds himself right in that area with Ari and James as if they're not out, they are hanging by a thread.
Yeah.
You know, it's those three guys. I would say a loss from any of the three of them over the next 8 weeks. They literally have to win out in order to make it. You know,
Basically, just as all these guys need other teams to beat other teams at
Yes.
the right time for them.
Exactly. Let's jump to the final matchup of this week, Benji. We're going to talk about 14 and 15 seeds. It's going to be Andy Solar Greco, all brawn, no brains. Losing 10-9 to Barry Nisman put a halt to losing. And since Uncle Barry changed his team name, I want to point out he's won 2 out of the last 3. So there's something to be said about that. Sometime a name change is important.
He did indeed put a halt to losing.
He did indeed. For Uncle Barry, close categories. Barry won by a triple, an error, and a home run given up by a pitcher. For Andy, he won by a home run, a win, and a save. And they tied in stolen bases and losses. For Uncle Barry this week, he went 10 for 42 on his bench, 238 average, 5 runs, a double, 2 homers, 6 RBIs, 3 walks, and 8 strikeouts with an error. The big thing that he missed out on, and I'm not advocating this particular change, but Yuli Gurriel went 2 for 3 with a homer and 2 RBIs on Tuesday, while Goldschmidt went 0 for 4 at first base. I'm not saying you start Yuli Gurriel over Paul Goldschmidt. Paul Goldschmidt's a first-rounder, despite his struggles this season. And Xander Bogaerts on Sunday, for whatever reason, was on Barry's bench, and Brock Holt was at shortstop. Bogaerts homers, which would have tied the homers category, and Holt didn't play. I have no idea what happened there.
Yeah, I have no idea. That's a weird one. That's one I'd like to find out what happened, because that is such a rare miss. I don't see that strikeout, like strikeouts Uncle Barry had by a landslide.
Yeah.
So I can't see where he was dodging. Maybe on base. That on base was close. Maybe he's thinking hold out on playing a guy he thinks might go 0 for 4. So make a go with a shorter lineup. That is the only thing I can think of, because you lose it. Also, I mean, maybe Xander steals a base and wins in that category. That ended up being a tied category 3. So I see what you're saying.
Here's the thing, though. Xander Bogaerts was his second-round pick. If you don't believe in that guy, why'd you draft him that high? Like, if this is the day you've got to play him. Like, you're this close. You're obviously out of it, but you're fighting a guy who's also out of it. Like, you want to have some pride there. And he won the week, don't get me wrong, but, like, you bench your second-round pick? I don't know, man. Moves this week, nothing to write home about. He moved a lot of Dwight Smith Jr. around. Dropped him, picked him up, dropped him again. He picked him up and dropped him twice apiece, which I found interesting. But at the end of the day, it doesn't look like he did much for him anyway, if anything. He did drop Raimel Tapia, which I found interesting, because Tapia, granted, he's not getting as much playing time as he used to, but he's still hitting really well. Like, he had a 4 for 5 day this week that we're talking about. So maybe he just doesn't have the playing time for him with the outfield he's put together. Either way, maybe he likes Ryan Braun better. That's who he picked up for him. So we'll see. For Andy this week, 18 for 49 on the bench. That's a 367 batting average, 9 runs, 9 doubles, 2 homers, 13 RBIs, a steal, 4 walks, and 12 strikeouts. It sounds like a whole lot. It's actually just 2 days that he made some interesting choices in who he started. Wednesday the 20th.
It seems like it, because I look at Sunday and he was able to manage to go 0 for 6. I mean, I don't count the guys that didn't start that day,
Right.
but I'm talking about it for guys that could have started. Wendell and Bobby Bradley, that's an 0 for 6 on his bench, and that could have very easily been in. So it was really just in a couple of days there was some questionable things.
Yeah, so Wednesday, Nelson Cruz was on his bench, went 3 for 4 with a run, a double, 3 RBIs, and Matt Olson was 1 for 4 in the utility spot. Matt Olson has picked up his game a lot recently. I remember fairly recently, maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago, he was hitting like 210. He's up to 250, which is where you expect Matt Olson to be hitting, somewhere between 240 and 265. He's just got a ton of power. So you can't really fault him for that start. But what you can fault him for is Corey Dickerson going 4 for 4 with 3 runs and 3 doubles with 3 RBIs on the bench the same day, and David Peralta 0 for 4 in left field.
Brutal.
That is absolutely brutal to have a 7 for 8 with 4 runs, 4 doubles, and 6 RBIs sitting on your bench, and a 1 for 8 in your lineup. That could swing average, on base percentage. Doubles he won by a landslide. Runs he won by a decent amount. The other one was on Saturday. Nelson Cruz 4 for 5. 2 runs, a double, 2 homers, 5 RBIs on the bench. Peralta 0 for 5 at the utility spot.
Well, he still won home runs. He still won RBIs. Yeah, it seems like average and on-base percentage were definitely winnable.
Yeah. Those two days, even if he gets one right, it changes batting average so much. He didn't make a roster move either this week, which I found interesting. Key players this week for Uncle Barry. It was Hanser Alberto. Hanser Alberto had a great week for him. Sorry, I just closed the screen for whatever reason and lost it.
No, I got it.
Okay.
This is for Barry's team. Sorry, I was looking at Andy's team for a minute. Hanser Alberto, 3 runs, 3 doubles, the triple, 3 RBIs, 2 strikeouts, a 4.09 average, and a 4.35 on-base percentage. I believe this was a guy that he traded for, if I'm not mistaken.
No, he was on Frank's team for a while.
Free agency.
Yeah, and he bounced around a bit. He picked him up on the 11th. The big thing is the triple. The triple is the winning category. It won him the week. This is it's huge. Xander Bogaerts, despite missing Sunday, was good for him. 400 average, 526 on base, 3 runs, a double, a homer, 4 RBIs, a steal, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts, and an error. Again, it's just that homer and 2 RBIs left on the bench on Sunday that really sticks out. Finally, Kike Hernandez, 375 average, 444 on base, 2 runs, 2 homers, 4 RBIs. This is a guy that has unbelievable position eligibility, and for whatever reason can't seem to find a home on somebody's bench. He's bounced around this league so much, whether it was being drafted by Andy and now bouncing around and ending up now on Jason's team. This guy needs to be. I feel like he's the type of guy who needs to be rostered, if for nothing else, to be that utility knife that you plug in wherever you need somebody. Pitching wise for Barry, Anibal Sanchez gave him 6 innings, 1 earned, 8 strikeouts, and a win. Brandon Woodruff gave him 7 2/3, 1 earned, 6 strikeouts, and a win. And Ariel Jurado, who he traded for with Frank in the Alex Gordon trade, 7 innings, shutout ball, 4 strikeouts, and a win. He won. He almost got wins, but the thing is, he got innings, and the ERA stayed low because of these 3 guys. To Andy's team, Matt Olson did give him a good week. 333 average, 360 on base, 6 runs, 4 homers, 7 RBIs, a walk, and 5 strikeouts. Chris Taylor gave him a good week. 440 average, 464 on base, 3 runs, 6 doubles, 5 RBIs, 2 steals, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts. And finally, Rafi Devers, who is he finally becoming everything that Boston thought he was going to be? Because he's having a really big breakout month. He hit 500 this week, 522 on base, 8 runs, 7 doubles, 2 RBIs, a walk, and a strikeout. Andy won doubles by 10, and he had 7 doubles. He had 13 doubles from Chris Taylor and Rafi Devers alone. Those 2 guys alone outscored Barry in that category. Amazing. Pitching wise, Trevor Bauer, 6 2/3, 12 strikeouts, a 1.35 ERA, and 0.60 WHIP. Patrick Corbin, 7 innings, a win, 9 strikeouts, 1 earned, and an 0.57 WHIP. And Zach Wheeler, 6 innings, 7 strikeouts, 1 earned, 6.67 WHIP. Solid pitching performance from Andy. His whip was way down. His strikeouts were way up. He got enough wins to get the win in that category. Anybody else you want to highlight?
No, but what I will say is I'll highlight a guy that went into a trade to Andy. Now, they tied home runs, right?
No,
And
Andy won home runs by 1.
Okay. So there was one left on the bench from Andy. Only one. And so you think you needed that insurance one. If it ended up being tied, this would have been the one. So Andy did a pretty good job as avoiding letting the long ball stay on his bench. But it was Jorge Polanco on Wednesday. And there was definitely an opportunity. I'm pretty sure his shortstop that day went 0 for 4. He did. So that was the one opportunity I felt that I was like, okay, it's interesting that Polanco, the guy he traded for, is the one that got the one bomb on his bench.
Yeah. Yep. All right, let's jump to the best and worst, Benny. Give me your best start of the week.
The best start of the week for me had to be this guy that Harada for Uncle Barry, because he traded for him. It was, I didn't expect it. 7 innings, a win, a walk, 4 strikeouts. He didn't give up a run and a 1 whip. I thought just on the fact that Uncle Barry avoided losing again. He's got the 2 out of 3 now. He wins 10-9. This guy got him closer. He made sure that he held on to ERA. Had a nice 3.09 ERA, so I'll give it a Harada.
All right, I'll give it to Mike Minor's complete game. He got the win, obviously, 1 earned run, gave up a solo homer. An 0.78 whip for Jimmy on the 26th. The start came against in Detroit. It comes off the back of an 8-inning 1 earned run performance. The guy's been absolutely lights out, and Jimmy's definitely benefited from it. This is the type of guy who's going to keep Texas in the wild card race this year on a team that I didn't think was going to be in the playoff hunt, to be honest. Give me your best offensive weekly performance, Benny.
Oh man, this one was tough for me. It had to be somebody on Mike Sherman's team, because there were just so many. I felt so bad that Chris could have batted a 306 batting average. It just wasn't enough to be a 335 batting average. And where you start between all these guys, but I'll say it's Gleyber Torres. 7 runs, a double, a homer, 2 RBIs, 7 walks, 2 strikes. He has a 2 errors, but a 500 batting average over the week and a 652 on base percentage. To me, you could have went with Acuna with 11 runs and 4 steals. You could have gone with Pete Alonso with his 296, his 4 runs. You could have gone to a number of these guys, but Gleyber was the guy.
Yeah, for me, it's a guy who had a pretty big upset win this week. It's Jason. His play of Lourdes Gurriel really helped win this week for him. 440 average, 462 on base percentage, 7 runs, a double, 5 homers, 8 RBIs. Just a strong week from him. For a guy who was sent to the minors earlier this year, he picked him up off of waivers when looks like Mike Haber dropped him. Just a fantastic find on the waiver wire, and to plug into his shortstop spot this week was huge. I do want to give a shout out, and I don't know if you came up with a weekly performance as far as a pitcher is concerned, but Max Scherzer deserves some credit here. 2 8-inning starts, 2 wins, 12 strikeouts apiece, 1 earned run apiece. It's a 1.13 ERA and 0.56 WHIP, also on Jason's team, and it helped him. And here's the thing: he had both of these guys who had unbelievable weeks. He only won 10-9.
Right.
So, give me your worst start of the week, Benji.
Worst starting pitcher of the week.
Yep.
There were a ton of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me see. I'm going through them right now. Let me Let me give you my worst hitting performer
Sure.
of the week. Let's do that one.
Sure, we'll do that.
Okay, I'm going with the 182 from the great Mike Trout. Only 1 run, an RBI, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, 250 on bases. This is weird. Just that Bobby could have really used something out of his best player. He finally lose. Very important. It would have been to beat Frank in this matchup because the guy that's towards the bottom.
Yeah.
You want to be able to beat the teams that are underneath you. He didn't get anything from his best player. The best player in the world. You know, when you lose by 2 walks and you lose by 2 stolen bases, these are things that Mike Trout could give you and did not have.
And they just weren't there.
Unfortunately, Bobby got nothing from the thing.
Yeah. I'm going to give worst weekly performance to Paul Goldschmidt. I touched on it earlier. Goldschmidt has been pretty bad. Like, he's been not a first-round talent like Uncle Barry expected to have. He hit 100 this week with a 217 on base, 1 run, 3 walks, 8 strikeouts. That's it. And he still won, like, a good majority, or like about half of the offensive categories. But, man, you'd really like to have a homer out of your first-round pick in a week where you lose by 1. You'd like to have, maybe a steal from Paul Goldschmidt, who used to have double-digit steals. He doesn't have any this year. Is this... This can't be the decline of him, is it? I don't think he's that old. So it'll be interesting to see what he does in the second half, because last year he got off to a really cold start, but by this time he was already, back to what he normally is. Worst weekly performance, I'm going to... By a pitcher? I mean, we can touch on a lot of them, honestly. We can touch on...
I finally got mine. I was between 2, but I know.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. It was between Jack Flaherty and Walker Buehler. Jack Flaherty didn't get out of the 5th inning. At least Walker Buehler did get into the 6th inning. The reason why I'm putting him over Jack Flaherty is because this was a much higher draft pick, and Ari needed this guy to have a big start. I already needed a win. He needed it in the worst way. He got 5 2/3, an 11.12 ERA, and no decision, but 2.47 WHIP. That to me, because he's such an important guy. That's the guy right there.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Blake Snell. It's... I don't know what it is. Is he tipping pitches? Is he just coming off of a ridiculous season? Is he getting unlucky? I don't know what it is. But this week it was 9 1/3, 2 homers, a walk, 16 strikeouts you like to see. But man, 8.68 ERA and a 1.61 WHIP. His start specifically against in Minnesota on the 25th. 3 1/3, a loss, 7 earned, a walk, 4 strikeouts. That's an 18.90 ERA and a 3.60 WHIP. Gross. Just absolutely gross. Benny, it's that time of the week where we give credit where credit is due. Name me your manager of the week.
Tough call. I kind of want to just give both of these guys in their matchup just honorary mentions to both of them and make them both in. Mike Sherman and Chris Levy in their matchup. We talked about everything that Chris Levy did on Sunday, but just the hitting has just been so awesome. And in spite of having to deal with Mike Sherman's 335 and 414 on base percentage, Chris still held his own with his 3.68 ERA. He still managed to tie relief appearances. Chris is on a roll. Chris has been, maybe aside from me, I would assume the hottest player in our league, because he dealt with an 18-0 loss in week 2, and he's sitting very comfortable with 8 matches to go. This is, I pick Chris Levy almost every week since we've done this because he's been cruising. So I think in this case, I'm going to share it to the both of them.
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking the same thing. I thought, Mike Sherman had a great Sunday picking up all those pitchers, but he still lost. So how do you give him manager of the week if he lost?
Yeah.
So
that's a good loss. You could give it to him.
Yeah, credit where credit's due. Both of those guys were fantastic. It was a great matchup. I agree with you 100%. We'll split it between those guys this week. Guys, that'll do it. Under 2.5 hours this week. We're getting there. We're locking and loading on this week. Tomorrow, what's tomorrow? Tomorrow I won't be here. I won't be doing this one. Wednesday look out for the draft review video. Thursday, we're going to do week 14. Is that how I laid it out? Give me 1 second.
Yeah, no, it looks like that's how we'll do it.
Yeah.
If things change, you guys will be the first to find out. I had a great time, though. I'm really happy that we stuck to the formula going week by week, because this was such an interesting week. It's so critical for some of these managers to either, win big or at least avoid a big loss. Some of the guys like Mike Sherman, some of these guys like Chris Levy, just going 500 and treading water until they finally get the big win. Week 13 was huge, and it was a great time.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. And again, Thursday is going to be week 14. We do need a guest. Anybody who wants to join us, you are more than welcome to. The draft review video, I would love to have somebody else on there as well, going over, round by round, who got great picks, who got terrible picks, who reached for a guy, how one guy fell so far. Fantastic type of video. And it's not as structured as this. It's a lot of, okay, round one, what do we want to talk about? Nothing, set in stone. Until then, guys, it's been real. It's been fun. It's always real fun. I'll talk to you guys soon.